Welcome back to the Unpatched
I was
Gaming
going to say it.
Podcast. Go ahead and say it.
Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast.
I'm your host, Tyler.
And I am your host, Zack.
Zack. I wanted to say it too.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we got to say it together.
Yeah, I'm really happy
that worked out really well.
That.
We're very in sync.
We should just restart the whole thing.
No.
No, not at all. Folks, welcome back. We share games here at the Unpatched Gaming Podcast, and we have shared two games that have been very high on both of our lists for a while. The first one here, Devil May Cry 5, much higher on Zack's list than mine. After he has played these the action games that he's talked about the past few episodes over the past, would you say 3 or 4 months?
Yep.
Okay. I've always wanted to play it because the genre doesn't interest me very much. I've just seen it sort of in my periphery. But DMC5 specifically seemed like the peak of the genre. And if I'm going to play one, I should probably play Devil May Cry 5 because it looks like peak video game.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to play it, but also seeming like the height of the genre after he's experienced it has really wanted to play it. So yeah, we're both happy to get that out of the way and, well, not out of the way, you know, check it off. And NieR Automata, which we'll be talking about later, which we've wanted to play for many reasons.
None
of which really... really happened for us.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this game. We'll see. It depends on what you come to us for, which discussion you like more, I think.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be...
that is true.
One will be far more gushy on my end, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Tyler brought some burr.
Yes. Okay, so Jester King here is one of the best known the best known breweries in Austin outside of Texas.
The craft snob scene would know about it.
Yes. So, you know, Anchorage, they're from Alaska. Many people who are craft snobs like Anchorage. Hello.
Yeah, Texas is Jester King. That's our...
yeah, California's got Firestone Walker and Lost Abbey. I think Lost Abbey is a little more niche than Firestone.
Yeah, but Lost Abbey is also the best brewery I've ever had. So.
Yeah. You know, Washington has a few... This is the snob brewery coming out of Texas. They specialize in my favorite kind of beer.
Foot
beer.
Just
that foam.
As my dad would
delicious.
describe it.
Yes, he does.
Foot beer.
This is a farmhouse ale. I should have read the can. Farmhouse ale brewed with, and I'm so excited about this.
Yes.
So excited.
Yes.
With smoked sea salt and oyster mushrooms. Not mushroom oysters. Oyster mushrooms. Very excited about this one.
Oh, man. I love everything from these guys, and this just sounds right up my alley.
Yes.
I've tried both of the other two we have today, so this is going to be...
Oh, really? I have probably tried the next one. Maybe I've had both of them. I didn't look at the one you brought.
I think you've had the one that I brought with me before. It's my go-to from them when they have it, typically. It's a crowd pleaser and one of their best beers, so... It's an easy win.
This is the Snorkel, Jester King Snorkel. Farmhouse ales, they're my favorite. I love them so much. They're so complex.
He likes the funk.
I like the funk, dude.
Cheers. Prost. Prost and stuff. Trying to asynchronously drink beer.
Yeah.
So we're not quiet. I was like, we like, have you played a video game? Video games.
I'm just going to chug this whole thing right now. It's quite salty, obviously, you know, smoked sea salt, whatever that is. And I am getting that sort of umami there. It's pretty forward. I thought maybe it would be a little more...
It doesn't last super long.
No, it doesn't, you know, sort of...
The salt sits, but pretty much everything else is, pretty light. This is far easier to drink. It's pretty crisp. Like, you get that acid on there.
It's easier than I thought. It's not very funky either. Some of their beers, I've been to their brewery twice now.
Their oyster beer is one of my favorite ones.
Really?
Oh, Amanda hates it. It's so good.
I bet I'd like it. I really liked. I know they're so different comparing a farmhouse ale to a cider, but Fairweather's their oyster cider. I forget what that's called. We did have it. I don't know.
I like them because they use a lot of Spanish apples, and apparently from them I've learned that I just like Spanish apple cider. It's really good.
I gotta go back, dude. They're 2 blocks from my house. I don't know why I don't go back more. I love pretty much everything they do. But anyway, Jester King, they're amazing. This is quite good. It is a much easier drink than I thought it was going to be. I'm glad the umami doesn't really stay there very
Yeah.
long. But it is very evident upon that.
You can
that
tell
first
that with
taste.
every beer they make, they're really tasting and testing and bringing it to the point where it's very balanced, that it brings exactly what they're going for. Some of their hoppy beers, even for folks who prefer kind of more traditional beers, some of their hoppy beers are just weird implementations of hop mixtures and trying out new things and new flavor profiles. And for something experimental, they're usually always on the money. Like, they really bring out the best. So I can't recommend them enough if you ever see them.
And they're canning now. I don't know, how wide the distribution is, but they, for a very long time, have been only the large bottles, which we'll pull one out in a bit. They're larger than wine bottles, right? What are those?
I think they're wine bottle size.
Oh, okay.
750?
So $7.50, yeah. So wine bottle size, they're usually $18 to $35 or so, and only a few places will carry them.
Austin Whole Foods, stuff like that.
Yeah, and some HEBs, which is the local grocery chain in Texas. So they're hard to get.
We're real proud of HEB.
But
HEB, if you want to sponsor us,
dude, I often say, not as a joke, HEB is actually the thing I will miss most if I ever moved from Texas.
yeah, I would agree. I love HEB.
I've been in a few states. I've lived in a few states. No place has a grocery chain so involved, both with the community and then also just, with the community. They do a lot of work in Texas, but it does feel like a local market. You walk around the produce section. I'm not going to talk about our groceries. This is a video game podcast, guys.
Guys, we're old.
Yeah.
We love grocery stores.
Oh my!
Have you been to the new Randall's?
No, because I have an HEB.
Exactly. This is true facts.
Randall's is trash.
Yeah, would never sponsor us, Randall's. We will reject it. We have integrity here. So let's talk about DMC5.
Let's. Zach, I'm very happy that you got to play this. Happy I got to play it, though kind of bummed the way I played it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's interesting. It'll change one of the topics I have to bring up later. Let's talk a little bit. Brief intro into the series for those who are unfamiliar. Which it's funny because I would say, as someone who played video games, I was aware of Devil May Cry. I played Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I played as Dante and Virgil all the time because Virgil's so cool. Like, Virgil's one of those characters you look at and you're like, this guy is just cool.
And Wesker from Resident Evil. Awesome.
It's just, you're like, this guy's just cool. That was my team, actually. I'd play as Virgil, Wesker, and Mega Man Zero. That was my classic team in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate. Anyway, the history of the series, I was surprised as I started to play these games how little I actually knew about Devil May Cry. It's just one of those things that you're aware of, the characters and the feel, but playing the game is unique. So Devil May Cry 1, I won't harp on it too much. It was going to be Resident Evil 4, split off. Really cool interviews that you should check out from all those creators all across the internet. Just really cool, innovative time to be a game developer at Capcom when Resident Evil 4 was coming out. So Hideki Kamiya made Devil May Cry 1. It was, of course, a smash hit. It made 3D action, like combat, a thing that people could grasp and know how to deal with now, and standardized how we play with that. God of War would come along in 2005, amping up the adventure component of Devil May Cry and kind of softening the edges of the combat, making it more accessible.
Yeah, it was very accessible in comparison.
Yeah, and that was the standard going forward, right? So a lot of us can point back to God of War as the reason Assassin's Creed has the combat system it does. The reason, all of these modern AAA games have these smooth, streamlined melee combat is God of War, but God of War only exists because of Devil May Cry's implementation in a 3D space. I would argue it is nearly as impactful as something like Mario 64. Now that I've played it, I see it everywhere. Everywhere. Truly a landmark title. Devil May Cry 2 was not made by Hideki Kamiya. It was made by a B team at Capcom. It was one of the first non-arcade games made by an arcade game team. It was a disaster 6 months before it was released or so. Itsuno, I forget his first name. Itsuno comes in and he basically salvages the project into something playable. It's terrible. Everybody hates Devil May Cry 2. Even the most hardcore fans of the series who hate the Western reboot would rather play the Western reboot than Devil May Cry 2. It's not a good game. So Itsuno comes in and says, hey, I want another shot. I want to do this right. I want to have the project beginning to end. And he makes one of the most important action titles of all time. Came out before God of War 1, Devil May Cry 3.
Really? That was before God of War?
Came out in February of the same year. Yeah, so it was a huge deal. And
so when could you give me the timeline there?
2001 is when Devil May Cry 1 came out. 2, I forget, a year. I think it was a year or two after, very soon after.
Okay.
And then 2005, February-ish, was the Western release of Devil May Cry 3.
Okay.
And Devil May Cry 3 upped the ante, added styles and a bunch of staples to the series. Being able to you could equip 2 weapons and 2 guns at a time, and using the triggers switch between them mid-combo. All these things that we've come to expect in a lot of action games now. All Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry 4 comes out on HD consoles in 2008, I believe? 9? Something like that.
Somewhere around there.
So around there. And same, Itsuno's made 3, he made 4, and he made 5. 4 kind of rushed by Capcom. You can feel it. But, Dante now can switch between his styles mid-combo as well as his weapons mid-combo. Has access to all of his weapons mid-combo instead of just 2 equipped at a time. The complexity, the ceiling just exploded for what you could do in that game.
Which I think 4 is probably the reason the genre is so daunting to me. I've seen plenty of gameplay of 4. Had friends in high school that played. And then I've just seen stuff online, and it's a little off-putting.
It's the ceiling is
daunting.
Just huge for a single-player game, right? Where you are up against a computer handling opponent, not a human handling opponent. So all of the complexity that comes with fighting games is out the window. You're up against a computer, and the skill ceiling is still that high. That's an achievement, man. That's an achievement. But also the barrier for entry is pretty low. You can just use the same 2 combos for the whole game, and if you're good at dodging and grinding your way through a fight, you'll be able to make it through the fight. You won't look very cool, but you'll do it, And that's, I think, to the game's credit. And the way that it keeps you from just doing that is the style system.
Now, I think now's a good time for me to jump in and talk about the way I played that. Played this game.
Sure, let's go.
So you mentioned it is accessible to new players, or alluded to that. It is accessible to new players, and that's an achievement.
Yeah, I would say 4 in particular is very accessible to new players. That's where they dropped the skill barrier for entry a little to let new players in.
Yeah. However, I think that lack of skill makes for not a very good experience. So I'm new to the genre. This is the first Devil May Cry game I've played, and one of the, I think maybe the only action game I've played all the way through. Well, except for NieR, which we'll talk about soon. So I played on the human difficulty.
If you count God of War as an action game.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
Games.
I've played all the God of War games. I forgot. Sorry. But as you mentioned, those were it's a different breed than Devil May Cry, truly. So anyway, I played on the human difficulty, which is advertised for newcomers to the Devil May Cry series.
And that's what it says.
That's exactly what it says.
Newcomers to the Devil May Cry series.
Yes.
And I think that's where the issue lies.
Yes. And then the next difficulty up, which is the normal difficulty, specifically says for veterans of the Devil May Cry series. So I went with human. This game was unbearably easy. I did not feel challenged until the very last boss. And even then, that's because I was not using a core mechanic, because the rest of the game was too easy. I forgot about the big god mode.
Sin Devil Trigger?
Yeah, I completely forgot about that because I didn't need to use it at all. I didn't die once, which that's not really a qualifier for a good game, how many times you die, but the challenge needs to be there. And I didn't feel like...
Yeah, the game needs to push on you.
It does, and it didn't.
I think all this could have been alleviated if they said newcomers to action games. I think that would have fixed a lot of this issue.
Yes. Only new gamers really should play that. I'm not very good at difficult games, and I just don't play these kind of games. If I can beat that game almost flawlessly on my first attempt, that's way too easy.
Yeah. And
I should be the target audience for that easy
half the damage done to you, and half the health for every enemy from normal mode, right? So
It's huge.
I was on
and
normal
it doesn't
mode,
say that.
and I died a bunch on normal mode.
One of the hardest bosses you mentioned, I timed because I had just spoken to you before I did this boss.
Yeah.
I timed myself at 3 minutes and 20 seconds with full health at the end of the fight. So it was just not good.
Yeah.
And I think that
and that boss killed me like 10 to 12 times.
Yeah.
Like I died a lot on that boss.
I think it really robbed me of a lot of what the game has to offer. I didn't feel like I was overcoming something.
Yeah. And Devil May Cry 4 is not that way. It does not have a mode that is that easy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
then what makes it accessible? Like, how did they lower that?
Nero is the answer. So instead of having a character with, 4 weapons, 4 guns, and 4 styles, he can switch between mid combo right out the gate. They give you Nero, who has 1 sword with a lot of combos. You can get a lot of mileage out of Nero from the Exceed system, and we'll talk about that. We've talked about it before. And then the Devil Bringer system you unlock at the end, the fist thing. Like, there's so much complexity to him already, but to just use Dante, you have to be at least able to use his styles to some extent.
Yeah.
To use Nero, you have to use Nero. Nero is the same every time. His styles don't change what the buttons do. Dante's styles can literally change what multiple buttons on the controllers do.
It's a lot.
It's so
I guess
much.
I was challenged then because I had never played Dante. You've been with this iteration of Dante from 3, 4, and now 5.
And it does iterate. That's what the series does, is you start at 1 and you see Dante picking up more and more things and getting more versatile as the series goes on. It's really impressive.
So this was the first time I had ever controlled Dante, and I didn't die, but I came very close multiple times.
Yeah, he's way harder to use.
So after that first mission with Dante, I then dumped all of my red orbs into health. I hadn't even upgraded my health yet.
Incredible.
Up to that point. Which is just another testament to how unbearably easy the game is.
Yeah.
I think it really robs you. If you're new to a game like this, if you are interested in it, because it's awesome, okay? This game is
cool.
just bonkers, and we'll talk more about that. But if you are interested in it, do yourself a favor.
Devil Hunter.
Play on the normal difficulty that's advertised for veterans of the series.
It was easy for me up until the second or third Dante mission, I think is what. No. It's the last stack of Dante missions. That's what it is. It's like 17 through 20, like 16 through 20, something like that. The last stack of Dante missions is when I started dying a lot. But up until then, it was fairly easy. And I play a lot of action games, recently especially. I'm pretty good at them. So, but I'm not great. I'm sure y'all can do way better than me. So even if you're pretty new to action games, please, Devil Hunter, force your way through. The game has mechanics to allow you to brute force hard moments. They're there for you. You said you didn't really die, so you didn't have to engage with the orb system at all.
No.
So what happens if you would have played on Devil Hunter, if you're up against a really hard boss, the gold orbs you collect, they're limited to, even if you'd replay the mission, you can't go get that gold orb again. There are a set number of gold orbs you can achieve on your save file. Then you can buy them from the store one at a time. If you really want to keep using them, but they're expensive and they're not.
So I used 1, which is the time I died on the last boss because I forgot about a mechanic.
Yeah. And so
you
can brute force the game that way. Like, if you really are struggling, you can do it, but you'll eventually run out of gold orbs and you'll need to start buying them, and they're very expensive. Then you could also, instead of the gold orbs, use red orbs, the currency. And you can come back with 3 health bars, 6 or more, or something like that. You can choose how much to spend, but every time you spend it, it increases the cost permanently. Not for that encounter. It permanently increases how much it'll cost to use that again.
I like that.
So you can brute force it, and it's okay. The game is not going to punish you. It won't give you, it'll limit your score at the end. It won't give you an S or whatever. But it's not going to punish you. It's not going to let you not finish. If you're struggling with the difficulty, it'll give you a way to brute force your way through while you're learning the game.
Dude, I was having such a breezy time. I didn't even... So with V, the new character here, he has 3 other characters that he controls. A bird that shoots bullets, a shadowy leopard, a panther rather, that is made of
Melee.
shadow that does all his melee damage, but morphs into a bunch of different things.
So all of these are enemies from the first game.
Oh, really?
Yep. So, and in fact, when you're fighting them in mission 18, the theme from the first game plays.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a great touch. But
That's cool.
So Griffin is a boss from the first game, Shadow is an enemy from the first game, and Nightmare is another boss from the first game.
Okay. So, one of the mechanics with those guys, while they're out fighting, if they take enough damage, they become a stalemate. They enter a stalemate or something.
Stalemate.
So there's a little orb that floats above the ground, right? And they need to regain health. I never upgraded that mechanic because I never saw that. I saw, like, while I was fighting them, I saw the orbs on the ground. I was like, what is that? I literally didn't know what that was.
Incredible!
Because they had never been hit enough for that to happen.
That's wild.
And it took a while for me to realize, oh, that's probably the thing that never happened because this game's so freaking easy.
Yeah. That's wild, dude. That's the
way
hardest fight in the game
too sharp
for me.
of a drop, man. It really robbed me of the whole
I
experience.
think that's the hardest fight in the game for me to do now that I've beaten it multiple times.
It was a big shakeup.
Yeah.
It was pretty difficult.
Yeah, I stomp Virgil now. He was really hard the first couple times I fought him. I can stomp Virgil. The one that beat me the most was Urizen 3 when he's on his feet.
Now, when I say difficult, I was not taking like enough damage to die, but just hitting them sometimes is pretty difficult.
And like Nightmare's only out for a certain amount of time, so you have to really maximize your damage on him. So yeah, it's easy to lose track of that. Can't
Griffin
imagine.
is a boss in the first game?
He's massive. He's huge in the first game.
Okay.
He's definitely shrunken down, but his moves are the same. He shoots those lightning bolts in those rows and everything.
That's cool.
But yeah, he's massive. You know, like boss size Griffin.
Now, again,
Shadow is the same size, and Nightmare doesn't look like that. He's more of a goop that just moves on the floor. But he has the orb that you have to get out of him and hit. I hate him.
Again, this is my first Devil May Cry game, but from what you've said and what I've seen from my friends in high school, it seems like there's a very careful level of consistency through the series, like narrative consistency. As silly as it is, like there's a clear progression. Excuse me, beer's getting to me. From 1 to 5, it looks like.
Yes.
And I assume fans appreciate that a lot.
I do, quite a bit. And I've only been a fan for like 2 months, you know?
Yeah.
So it's I can't imagine being a fan since 2001 and the theme from the original game kicks in as you're fighting the enemies from the first game.
Yeah.
Like, that must have been so
Or just
cool.
playing as them must have been pretty cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shadow especially, because that's the first real... so the first real roadblock in the first game is the first boss. One of the most excellently designed first bosses in video games. Seriously, just wordlessly teaching you how to play a game. It's wildly incredible. But right after that, the shadows are the first real blocker of an enemy. Like, where you're like, oh, okay, I need to get good. Like, I need to step up my game here. So that's unfortunate because I think it gives you the tools to make Devil Hunter approachable for anybody. And if you just want to play the game once and kind of brute force your way through, you'll have the ability to do that. I think they should have just left it, man. Because there
Did
does
you play
have
on
to
Devil
be.
Hunter?
Yeah, so that's why I started on Devil Hunter. I beat Devil Hunter, and then I unlocked Son of Sparta, hard mode. I beat Son of Sparta, and then I played through as Virgil on Son of Sparta. So I beat the game 3 times, and then I got to floor 99 of the Bloody Palace with Nero. So
Which there's 101.
101. I'm pretty close. I'm grinding out those fights right now, trying to get better at beating those bosses, and I'm gonna make another run again next time I get an evening to myself. So we'll see. I'll have beaten Bloody Palace before I put this game down. And then I'll probably try it with Dante. Try to see what all these awesome Dante players can do. Just try to engage with that. It's just
you don't
so
like
much.
V very much?
I do like V. But because of actually I like V quite a bit. But because most of the depth comes from those 2 characters in particular, that's what I want to play with to get the most out of the game, because I'm not gonna spend enough time to beat Bloody Palace with all 4.
Yeah.
You know.
Now I will say, though it was very easy, the depth is so obvious. Like just
Oh yeah.
this by the end of the second level, you've got several tools now for Nero. You've probably got 7 or 8 different arms all of which do something very different. Some of them help with traversal, crowd control. They power up the weapons, the other weapons you have, and then you can charge his motorcycle sword. It's
He literally
It's
revs
awesome.
it, like he turns the handle. It's just awesome.
yeah, there's a lot there. And then V is not as complex, but once I've
Like managing all three of them
Yeah,
at once, as you like, it takes. I'd never got perfect at it, but like I can tell there's a lot to master with making sure you're maximizing what all three are doing if you're controlling all three at once.
yeah, it's interesting.
And then, making sure that you're always maximizing what you're doing as V. Are you going to be reading the book to boost that devil trigger gauge? Are you going to be being close in so you're making sure Shadow's hitting exactly what you want him to hit? Are you going to be, really, really paying attention?
So with V, V's not as complex as the other characters, but
He
probably
can still carry any other action game easy.
Yeah. So by himself, he's useless. He can't even deal damage to enemies unless much later you unlock a big move he can do. He walks around with a cane and reads a book. So he summons he summons Shadow and Griffin, and then when you have your devil trigger filled up, you can summon Nightmare. So Griffin does all the ranged combat, and Shadow does the melee combat.
And they're also tied to your evasion. So if you double jump, it will pull Griffin away from what he's doing to carry you. If you dodge, Shadow will be pulled away to carry you in your dodge away.
But sometimes you can also use that to pull him
Intentionally pull him out of danger. Yeah.
Pull him out of danger, or if you're in danger, you dodge, and then Shadow's right there and can start dealing damage to this.
Yeah. Managing where they are.
Yeah, I had a very hard time until probably the last 5 or so missions. Probably the last 2 missions you do with him, because the last 5 I think are all Dante, 4 or 5. So really, the last 2 missions you do with V, was when I finally came to grips with how to think about the battlefield, because the fact that they are separate, like, I understand it's all on the same controller, but the fact that they're separate, I found really hard to connect in my brain. Even something as simple as Atreus having extra moves separate from Kratos, I sometimes found hard to remember because it's not on the immediate character right in front of me.
Sure.
And it's so close. If it were a little more pulled back, maybe Atreus wouldn't be so hard, but that's the case here, and it is still difficult for me to wrap my head around. But once I did, it felt pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to manage them. I should have remapped the buttons earlier because
I did very, very early.
Being able to keep Griffin going while you're doing your combos is so key. Because typically the buttons by default are mapped to the classic, the way it's always been. And they do that for a very important reason, and I'll get to that later. But square is pretty much always ranged, triangle's always melee, circle's always your special ability. X is jump. That's pretty much always how it's been. The amount of mileage they get out of all those buttons is insane and intuitive. It really is baffling. But
you can't really... It's very hard to do all 3 of those special... ranged, and all of them. Dodging is important too. So ranged, melee, special, and dodging all with one thumb. So moving ranged is very, very helpful.
Very helpful. And I will probably be doing that for all characters for, again, a pretty important reason we'll get to in a second. Since we're on it, let's go through, I mentioned every character here could carry their own game easy. Mm-hmm. Each one brings their own style.
And Dante did for 3 games.
Yeah, exactly. So each one brings their own style too. Like the way that you fight with them and are rewarded for playing with them feeds into the kind of personality they are. Like you feel different personalities coming out of playing all of these people. Dante feels very wild, on the fly, fun. Like things are changing so fast. Nero is so aggressive of a character. Someone described, I think it was Gaming Brit Show described, the combo where you hit stall and he just smashes his sword into the ground, using it like a club. Like it's not even a sword. He's literally swinging this thing around like a caveman club. He's just so aggressive with it.
Yeah.
And he is so much more intentional than Dante. He's the serious kid. I'm passionate about things, and he gets some good moments in this game though. But He has he's
As
much
silly
more
as the narrative is.
he's much more serious about things than Dante is, and he brings that to his character. He's about building momentum and flow. You mentioned the exact system, so it takes a long time to charge up his motorcycle sword if you swing every hit that he has, even the exceeded ones, has a timing window where if you press the exceed button, the motorcycle charge button, which is by default L2, it will immediately fill it with one charge instead of having to sit there and charge it for a full second and a half to get a full charge. So now you can just incorporate it in the middle of combos, and getting to where you're constantly doing that, and it buffs your R1 attacks where you hold R1 and do some directions. It buffs those. You can unlock Max Act, which basically, if you hit an even tighter window within that window, it will fill up all 3 gauges immediately.
That's hard to hit.
It's really hard. Even pros will frequently miss it mid combo. It's just so tight of a window. But when you hit it, because it's all about instinct, right? You should be able to tell. It's a different sound effect, and you can see at the top left your little gauge is full. You can pull out the right move for that situation, knowing that you hit the max 3. And that's kind of, I think, how it's meant to be. But you have also this really, really interesting thing that unlocks at the end where he gets his Devil Bringer. It's this grab he gets where after every hit, you can hit the Devil Bringer button and it will throw out this little devil punch, little devil punch. And it will add another hit, but it'll also be a way less knockback of a hit. So moves that would usually throw them far away, if you do this, it'll actually keep them right in front of you to keep being comboed on. So, there's so many. Every move you can either exceed or devil hit or both, and weave those into combos. And then, of course, he has his, grapple.
Which I totally forgot about. I saw you using...
That's the way to do the game, dude. Grapple.
Wow.
Because you don't have to worry about approaching them, really. And the bigger ones, you move toward instead of pulling them to you. Yeah. But even then, it's definitely the way to do it.
Now, the exceed button is L2, and on PlayStation 5 here... they decided to incorporate...
we are playing special edition.
Yeah, they decided to incorporate... Listen, not everybody has to do this. It's a cool feature, but you don't need the adaptive triggers. I turned it off completely.
So far, the only game I've found to use it well is Returnal.
Yeah. But here, it's just a fun thing they did, but detracts from being able to play the game as quickly as you need to.
Because, you want to rev the motorcycle so it has some resistance.
A lot of resistance.
But a lot of resistance. So, I turned it off, and I noticed I was hitting it way more often when I turned it off.
I think I had done that. I was still in the first level, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing this.
See, I put up with stuff so much more. I should have changed it immediately. So there's him. Obviously, Dante, just the incredible amount of variety mid-combo that you can switch between. He has Trickster, his kind of teleporting, dodging around style. He has Swordmaster, adds new moves to all of his melee weapons. Gunslinger adds new moves to all of his guns. And then Royal Guard, which is this literally immediately block any attack in the game. And if you time it perfectly, you won't suspend any Devil Trigger to block it. And then you can release it charges up a meter and results in the most powerful move in the game if you release it at the right time.
Really?
Yeah, so if you do the release, it's forward, lock on forward circle, it'll do a lot of damage with the stored up energy. But if you do it right as a hit lands for a perfect parry, but with the attack, I got one off with a full gauge on yours in 3, and it took away a quarter of his health bar. It was just gone. And that was
a lot.
That was on Son of Sparta too. So hard difficult, it's just all gone. It's really good.
One hitting bosses, dude.
It's just it's fun. But
I want you to fight. Can you? No, because they don't unlock anything on
which is dumb.
Lesser difficulties.
Yeah, beating.
I just wanted you to jump up to the hardest boss on a lesser difficulty and see what that's like.
And then of course V. We talked about what makes V really just keeping that Devil Trigger high up and using all because you can buff your Griffin and Shadow.
Yeah, that's all I did. I only summoned Nightmare once, I think.
Yeah, I tend to I prefer buffing them because it keeps them out of danger and it can keep them they just do so much damage, and they build your Devil Trigger your style meter really fast. And then of course Virgil. So Virgil has a concentration meter. If you are landing your hits, so not missing, and you're not running. So if you're using your teleport. So you should just be standing still and teleporting. It builds up your concentration meter, which you can spend to do attacks, or the higher it is, the more damage you're doing. So you just are obliterating enemies if you're just standing there. My favorite move with Virgil, he does this spin around. He spins around really fast. Like you can't even see him spin around, But it leaves this literally thin ring of blue where his sword was in the air. And enemies they get knocked back and stunned for a second. And then it snaps and they all explode out flying away. And he's just standing there, He says something snide probably. And then you teleport over to them and just keep the combo going. He's got this move that's way overpowered. He's always overpowered in these games. He's meant to be. He's a boss. You're playing as one of the bosses, And so every time he does one of his moves that uses Yamato, he usually sheathes it in a cool way. Like he'll sheath it again. He always has his sword sheathed, then he pulls it out to do moves. Well, there's a click and you see a little shine. If you time Judgment Cut, which is you hold down triangle after a move and release it, he'll step back and do this little the thing he hits you with, the little distortion blade thing. If you time it to right when he puts the blade back, he won't step back and he'll do it twice. Like it's basically double damage. And then he'll sheath again. And you can do it up to 3 times, like he does to you. I practiced so long to get the timing down.
I did not play him very much though.
I tried to get the timing down. I got it to where I could do it in the air 3 times, like every time, but on the ground it was harder. But man, he's so cool. Just standing there. Once you unlock his little mirage blades where they launch at people automatically and stuff, the game just breaks, snaps in 2. Even on hard difficulties, you're just riding through it with all this stuff. Anyway, yeah, the depth for Virgil obviously being against bosses in particular. Can you stand there as the boss is about to hit you and teleport at just the right moment to keep your combo going? Because it teleports like that really fast. It's not this wide window of a dodge. You really just got to stand there and wait. It was hard enough to where you fight. They do add one new boss for Virgil. You fight Dante at the end instead of Virgil.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad they did, because in Devil May Cry 3 you just fight Virgil. But it's a cool touch. And Dante's a great boss fight. He's using his moves, so he rides cavalier at you. He gets on it from across the map and just starts riding towards you. And then he'll use Royal Guard. So if he's in Royal Guard, you have to listen for him to go Royal Guard. He'll shout it out. You have to listen for him, and if he's doing that, don't hit him, because he will just royal release you into oblivion. So it's a fun boss fight, but he's tough, but it's fun to have the script flipped and play as Virgil.
Talk about Cavalier, please.
Yeah, so my favorite weapon in all of Devil May Cry now is Cavalier.
God, it's so cool.
If you're familiar with Devil May Cry 5 at all, I'm sure you know about it. But he literally gets a motorcycle that he rides on that he will split in half, one wheel for each hand, basically. And it's the whole half of the motorcycle. And he's holding it, and he not only is hitting enemies with it, he's hitting it with the wheels running, so it's burning into them.
Yeah.
And you get rewarded more damage and more style the longer it's revving into them, and hitting it at just the right time to go to the next move. My favorite thing to do with it is if you're in Swordmaster and do back circle, he'll knock them up in the air really high. And then he has another move, I think it's lock on back triangle in the air, where he will turn around with both motorcycle ends behind him and drag them up with the wheels to push them even higher up into the air. Dude, and then you can smash down onto them and keep drilling the wheels into them.
And then you can hold circle to drive forward towards enemies and just do donuts on them.
And then if there's an enemy next to you and you stop doing the donuts, you stop hitting circle, he will jump off of the motorcycle by kicking the whole motorcycle at the enemy approaching you. And you hear
it's so cool. I unequipped all weapons except for the sword. You can't unequip the sword. I just unequipped everything and just used that.
The fact that you can do that added so much to this game, because in Devil May Cry 4 you just had to have all your weapons available. Being able to choose what's available is awesome.
And the order that they
order, so you can, you don't have to double tap to get to that weapon you want to do your combo with. You can set up your own combos. Dude, this game just got so much right. Let's talk about it, because we kind of have been jumping around a little bit.
Indeed.
So I had a checklist. I made this before I started the game. I had just played through Devil May Cry 1 through 4 and the reboot, and I made a little checklist, and it had 3 things on it. 3 things that if Devil May Cry 5 does these 3 things, it will be enough to fix all of the mistakes of the past. All of them.
Okay.
Number 1, enemies must be designed to work well with all playable characters. Okay, so Virgil and Dante in Devil May Cry 3 is kind of an exception. I guess it kind of works just because Virgil's so powerful. It doesn't really matter. But in Devil May Cry 4, like, these enemies are not designed for Dante. They were designed for Nero. And you could tell. You could totally tell, especially some of these more annoying ones, unfortunately. Number 2, bosses must play to the strengths of the combat system consistently. You cannot have these stalling puzzle bosses that block combo damage. Like, stop this. Stop playing this game. Don't do that. You're a combo-based, stylish action game. Stop giving these bosses to me. You're a joke. And then lastly, no BS fluff. No mini games. Fix the pacing.
Got it all, dude.
No boss rushes. There's one mini boss rush at the end, but you only have to fight 3 bosses. They're all underpowered versions of themselves, and it's kind of this Nero getting his powers back. Not Nero, V getting his guys back. It's really unobtrusive. It's a little speed bump. It's 3 fairly easy bosses. Cavalier's a little tough, but it's not egregious at all. I will allow it. It feels like just fighting enemies. It checked all those easily.
Very well.
It was very impressive, and then did even more. So let's jump into it. I want to talk about the action first, the action itself. So combat is basically the balancing complexity with instinct. This is what I think all Devil May Cry games succeed at, and this one obviously being the best iteration of that does it even more so. Obviously, there's a lot of depth, a lot going on that you can slowly add into your combos as you get better at the game and increase the difficulties. You're meant to keep increasing the difficulties, meant to keep challenging yourself, going through the game again and again and again. Cutscenes are skippable, levels are quick. It's meant to be done like this. And not only do higher difficulties add health, they add new enemies, new enemy placements, increasing the difficulty by changing the enemy format in the area. You know, like, it's not just...
So there are new enemies as well?
So enemies will behave more aggressively, sometimes get new moves, and there will be different enemy placements in each place.
Okay.
So harder enemies earlier, harder enemy matchups. Like you'll get enemies that are a little bit harder to deal with together that you didn't get together previously. Those Furies, dude. The ones that go invisible.
Oh, those are the worst ones.
They're so hard. I finally feel like I can deal with them mostly okay, but even now they still get me. So after some time with the game, even with all the character swapping, the buttons and commands are similar enough. The buttons are laid out in a way, the way you input your launch commands and all these things, they're all similar enough to where everybody has their own feel. Everybody plays totally differently. You're going for something different with every character, but it's enough for you to react very soon after starting to play the game with these split-second reactions. And as you get better at the exceed gauge or the style swapping with Dante, your reactions will become more nuanced and complex and more effective. But even right out the gate, your split-second reactions are typically going to be right a lot of the time. What you're doing, because of how they have the buttons mapped and how the combo system, I have this next here, the strings are never complex. It's not like playing a fighting game where it's, okay, well, for this character, it's back, forward, circle, X, back, like just to get the right string. This is the character's, 10 combo string or whatever. There's none of that. There are a couple strings. They always use triangle. Every time. Hit, stall, hit, like something like that. It's really simple. The complexity comes from associating those strings with a function, implementing those functions in the split-second moment, and then using your lock-on directional button moves, each with their own use, within those strings and out of those strings. Sure, you can make these super long combos, but you can get an effective, strong combo on one enemy out of just, mixing and matching these different triangle button moves, man. Mm-hmm. Then your guns and all that other stuff, of course. But building a game off that instead of going, okay, I need to associate the Y, pause, X, Y, X, pause, Y with this function. No, you don't have to do any of that. Every move and every string has a function. They're all very short to implement, the longest string being 4 buttons, I think. unless it's a masher, but you know what I mean. Like long string being 4 buttons. Each one has a function. You associate that function really quick in your head, and you implement it split second on the fly, and can build off of that into anything else. That's just how action games should be designed.
There's also something else that I think the game does very well in terms of like how it teaches the player. It seems like, and I could be wrong, just having played on an easier difficulty, not getting the full breadth of the game, but each of the 3 characters seem to be teaching something. Each of the bosses teach something. But
definitely, especially the early ones.
There are 3 things that each of the characters do differently, but each of them are teaching you the core of what that thing is. And I think with what's his name? V, that's placement on the battlefield, and with Nero, that's timing, and then with Dante, it's like how to react, how to foresee things. Because both of the other 2 are, I think, a little more aggressive than Dante, especially Nero, or at least I played them more aggressively. But I didn't really, until some of the middle V sections, I didn't really consider my placement and the enemy's placement very well on the battlefield when I was playing as Nero. And then I took that, after that mission, whatever it was, I took that to Nero and was doing better with Nero. And then once I finally figured out how to, properly engage with the exceed system, I was able, which again, that was like towards the middle of the game, I finally got comfortable with that. I was able to take that and time my dodges to move a, Griffin or Shadow over, and just how to time things properly. And then finally, when I got used to Dante just a few missions before the end of the game, those like being a little more comfortable dancing around and doing things with split second decisions, I didn't really learn till later on with Dante. I was trying to go in with a strategy and maintain a strategy, sort of, which is not what the game is really exceeding at. But yeah, I think each of the characters teaches a fundamental.
I didn't think
and
about
then you
that.
can
That's really interesting.
bring that fundamental to another character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which all of them have. All of them require you to do those things, but they're all focused on one of them.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think about that at all. I want to briefly touch on, so we just talked about character design, enemy design. I would argue this is one of the best rosters of enemies in any action game, because there's really no straight fodder except for the little Impusa guys. You have your one fodder type, and then there's no, like, a lot of action games, like, as much as I love them, the God of War 2018 reuses a lot of its enemies, and there are a couple fodder enemies, a couple ones that are just kind of there, and you deal with them, and sure, they bring their own thing to the game, but you just kind of deal with them. Every enemy, is Doom level variety, where if you put this enemy into a situation with a different enemy, it is a totally different encounter. Because, okay, with this enemy I have to manage these things. Oh, but now I have this enemy which manages these things. For example, one of my favorite matchups, like if you put them together in a room, is when you get the death scissor ones with another enemy who's more aggressive, like let's say the rolly guys, the ones who roll up in a ball and roll towards you, because the death scissors, you want to wait and be patient and time where you can hit their scissors so that it opens their weak spot and you kill them in one hit. And then with the armadillos, you want to just keep them in the air, keep them off the ground. You don't want them there. But in the air, the scissors can just float up to you and hit you. So prioritizing and figuring out how to manage that, knowing that those armadillo guys, if you are able to get them knocked down on the ground, they stay down for a full 6 seconds. They just lay there, stunned. So if you can knock him down, wait to deal with the scissors, get him back up, run away from the scissors, knock him back down on the ground, deal with the scissors, there's it's just putting two enemies together, There are two enemies that are universally pretty despised. They're not poorly designed, but I think are a little bit outside of the strengths of the game. Are the Fury. So this is this guy. He's a red guy with a little sword blade that disappears. It's very rarely, even when he's appeared, you can't do damage to him. He just kind of fades away. It's so frustrating. And you kind of have to counter him or wait for just the right moment to do damage to him. He will disappear mid-combo when you're comboing him, so you can't like just get him stuck in a combo and keep on him. He's very frustrating to deal with. I think he could have been tweaked, definitely, to be maybe a little bit more, like, maybe just as hard to get into a comboable state, but when he's there, if you're good enough, you can kill him in one combo. I'm sure there are people who can do that. They figured out how to do it, but it's not intuitive because he will disappear at pretty much any time he feels like it. The other being the Hell Judica. This kind of, it's wrapped in a purple wire and summons other guys. But again, because he teleports away all the time. There are ways to deal with him. You can figure out how to get him into a stunnable state. But even with that stunnable state, the second he hits the ground, he's gone again. And sometimes even mid-air combo disappears. So dealing with them can be pretty frustrating. I would argue those are the only two that are on the edge of like, okay, but thankfully they're used very sparingly, even on the harder difficulties, and they're used typically to, they can typically be, the Judicas in particular can be ignored largely while you're dealing with everybody else. You don't have to worry about them. They'll summon a few more weak enemies, but it's not a big deal. So, just prioritizing that, there's always something going on there. Enemies can be used to deal with other enemies. The Hellbats that explode, getting them to a point where they're almost about to die, and then pulling them toward you into a large group of enemies, doing those last couple hits, and then shooting them so they explode on all the enemies. And it's almost an insta-kill for almost every enemy. It's so much damage.
Can you throw them at an enemy? And if that's the last hit, so obviously when you get the last hit, they're going to expand.
They have to inflate, yeah.
Okay.
An animation begins for them, and so then you shoot them or let them explode.
While they're expanding, can you throw them? Or when you attack?
I don't know. I just shoot them because it's faster. But I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Well, if it's not placed correctly.
Yeah, because it doesn't. I haven't been damaged by their explosion before. I don't know if you can. Maybe if you span too close, but enemies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah, because enemies, it's a pretty wide range where they'll get hit by it. Not as wide for the player, it seems. But I don't know. I should try pulling them toward me when they're about to explode.
Or throwing. I saw you throwing enemies in a direction.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
So it depends. Each enemy is devil bringed. How do you say that? In a different way.
Devil brought,
baby. Devil may brought. So the behemoths. The behemoths do damage to other enemies. The big ones with the chain, the lock on their tail.
Yeah.
They'll run into other enemies constantly. I typically leave them alive until the very end of a fight because they will just wreak havoc for me. You have to pay attention. If they come up charging behind you, whoops. On harder difficulties, they'll take away a third of your health. It's wild. But and then each character, of course, has to deal with different strategies for each encounter, and the enemies are designed to work with every character. I can imagine the only exception might be V with the Furies. I have no idea how the hell I deal with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if I encountered one with V.
No, you don't.
I think
but if you do Bloody Palace with V, they'll be there. So. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what other people think. But every other enemy you fight with V, and all of them are manageable. I'd argue the Judicas are even easier with V because you can just keep on them with Griffin while they're doing their own thing. You can't keep that kind of pressure on with Dante and Nero without causing them to teleport again. Anyway, that's the combat. There's literally, anything that is negative is a nitpick.
Pretty much.
There's so much. I didn't bring up, obviously, the style meter. This would only be info to anybody very new to Devil May Cry. But the style meter is obviously kind of the core of what made this series stand out. You are rated on how... and the first game, it's more just the amount of damage you're doing consistently versus how much you're taking. But as the series progressed, specifically in 3 and on... the more varied you're being in your combos, the more style. Like genuinely, it's pretty good at rating your style, how stylish you're being, and engaging with that. When you hit that triple S, it feels good. The dynamic music is awesome. That's a gift from DMC, the reboot actually. When you hit the S rank, the vocals kick in.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's pretty cool.
I do like that touch quite a bit. I think it's like you've earned something. The music builds at each rank, though. I mean, it's really cool. But yeah, I would argue that there's no issues with the ranking system. Maybe the end of level rank. I've heard that if you want all the S ranks on Dante Must Die, you have to skip some of the smaller encounters because you won't be able to hit triple S in that encounter because there just aren't enough enemies with enough health. So you have to run past those to the larger encounters. That might be the only nitpick that I can think of.
Interesting.
But if you're just playing the game and you don't really care about hitting S at the end of every level, you can, the in-game style counter, not the end-of-level style counter, will always reward you for being stylish, and it'll slap you on the wrist pretty heavily for taking damage or for using the same moves. If you just keep using the same couple moves, you won't break past A. You might hit S, but you won't get any further. But if you're like using your whole kit,
you'll hit
never
S,
did get past S. You'll hit triple S,
of S, but never passed.
Yeah, you'll hit triple S really fast if you're using Nightmare's the key with V. If you pull out Nightmare, all the enemies are grouped in one place and Nightmare crashes into them. It's immediate triple S basically. You're just like, it's pretty fun. But yeah, I would argue it's handled pretty well. V gets quite a bit of a break in terms of because he has less variety overall than the others in terms of like the actual moves being done. It's more about managing those things. Mm-hmm. It seems to reward you pretty well for managing them rather than having to be varied every single time. It does a pretty good job of that. So that's good stuff. Let's talk about the bosses. I would argue they finally play to the strengths of the game.
Yeah.
Many
and not just
do not
this game itself, but seemingly the genre. That something it's kind of what spurred on the conversation from last week, but specifically terrible boss design in this like as a staple of the genre.
Yeah, action games just for some reason there's this desire to make them. I don't know if it's cinematic sometimes or if it's, something else, but they'll try to make them harder in weird ways. Like, okay, well, they won't respond to these combos. It's like, okay, but these are the combos I've been using all game and they're the core of the game. It's like in RPGs when the bosses are immune to all of the the
status
effects. It's like, this is the game.
Worst.
Like, make it harder to implement the status effect, sure, but let me interplay with your systems you've given me.
Dude, the first time for the first couple of bosses in Final Fantasy IV, I didn't do it. And finally, I was like, let me just see this time. Let me press poison. Oh my God. Oh, the boss is poisoned, guys. Put him to sleep.
Yeah.
And it works. It works. Like Final Fantasy IV was the first one I played that did that. And not every game continued doing that after.
No, it's very weird.
It's so dumb.
It's very weird. And
don't
action
take
games
away the
similar.
game.
Like a lot of bosses in Devil May Cry, I have a list here. So Nightmare in Devil May Cry 1, you have to hit some panels on the wall to get him into the state where he will expose his little orb. He will do an attack. You have to dodge the attack, get up on the orb, and do as much damage as you can. That's dumb. Mm-hmm. I'm running around being Dante, trying to maximize my efficiency on these bosses, and you just throw in this boss where I have to hit some things on the wall. Like, some people defend him. I'd say sure, he's definitely better than a lot of the other guys I'm about to mention. Gigapede in Devil May Cry 3.
Gigapede.
He literally flies back and forth between two little big holes on the wall that you can't go through, and you have to jump on his back and hit him as much as you can. It is because it's not a platforming game. You will often fall. He often knocks you off. He has moves that track you. So even if you get on him, maybe he just used that move. So all the orbs are going to come hit you and take away half your health. Just bogus. And you have to sit there and wait for him to come back out of the hole. Okay, where is the boss? Oh, where's the boss now? I wanted to rip my arms off. Garyon in Devil May Cry 3. He is a horse. Actually, it's the same horse that you fight with V, that the rider is riding. Yeah. The time-slowing horse. So it's that one. He's carrying a chariot. you can shoot at him. Shooting doesn't do much damage. You just kind of have to let him exhaust his little running around thing that he's doing, and then he's open for attack, and you do as much damage as you can. Then he goes and does it again. It's freaking terrible.
Great.
Terrible. Sanctus in Devil May Cry 4. Oh crap. I added another guy. I don't know why it didn't show up here, but Sanctus in Devil May Cry. Is it?
It's probably on the other side.
Maybe. Sanctus in Devil May Cry 4, he's kind of the Pope. You have to kill the Pope.
Okay.
But he just basically, you have to break this shield on him, and then he just runs away really fast. It's really hard to hit him in this little window of opening where he's running away because he's shooting at you, and it might coincide that he shoots at you just the time that you're able to hit him, so then you can't hit him because you can't grapple towards him because he's shooting at you. And it's just this repetitive, bogus, garbage face poop head.
Oh.
I hated it so much. So much. There's another boss in Devil May Cry 4 that is absolute trash. That is not coming to mind right now. Because I probably blocked it out of my brain.
It's not on the other side. I looked.
Okay, heard.
But that's probably better for you.
But this is
that
what
you forget.
This is the lineage that we're dealing with, and I can't think of a single boss that, like, the worst offense in this game is a boring boss. Like, the first boss is this little squishy brain root thing, and it's the first boss. It's kind of showing you to, like,
what is that?
It's the little, like, stabby roots with the
I guess I don't
exactly.
recall.
It's really forgettable.
I thought the giant was the first
Oh,
boss.
well, technically, but you don't have to beat him. You can lose that fight. It's Oh, and Goliath is
Goliath. That's what I mean.
No. It's the first boss is at the end of that broken road, and it's the stabby roots. There's like 4 stabby roots.
Yeah,
and,
I guess I don't remember.
Again, it's really boring, but it's teaching you to, you can't just wail on the boss. It's going to try to hit you. Stay out of the way. It's pretty basic. Maybe too basic for this game, but that's the worst you can level at it. Pretty much. Pretty much every other boss has its place and its purpose, and is fun to fight. Needhog is the only maybe exception. Fighting Needhog as anyone but V is pretty painful. That one. I fought him as Virgil. I just abused Judgment Cut because I didn't have time to deal with
fighting Goliath, which is really just a giant, huge, King Kong situation
with
happening.
a mouth in his belly.
Oh yeah, in just an open arena. So you're just dodging his attacks and wailing on him.
He punishes jumps pretty considerably.
Unless,
yeah.
You got the Gerbera attached.
Yes.
And you can so the Gerbera is one of the arms you can attach to Nero, and it will, if you're in the air when you use it, he'll just do a little hop like it's a jetpack, and
it cancels most of what you're doing.
Yes. So you can stay in the air so long.
Yeah.
Maybe endlessly. I don't know.
So it's basically doing what a jump cancel would do, but before you unlock the super expensive jump cancel thing. You can just and unlike jump cancel, it does actual damage to the boss as you're jumping around him.
So I could just hop around him in the air.
Because he does have a couple moves that will hit you if you're in the air, but you can move horizontally around them.
Yeah.
So I did not have. I should have bought a few when I was fighting him, but the first time I fought him, I didn't have those. So it kind of forced me to learn my ground game, which I've never used in Devil May Cry. I've always used jump because both jumps and dodges give you iframes. So typically just use jumps. It's more of a guaranteed safety. You know what I mean? Because you're up and getting iframes. So you're more likely to be safe. So I had to kind of finally learn to dodge laterally in Devil May Cry because of this boss. And then now that I have jump canceling and Gerbers and stuff, I just use those. But
Gerber is so cool.
It's so awesome. It's probably my favorite devil arm. We didn't mention that. That's some more complexity for Nero. He has multiple devil arms now assigned to the circle button. Each one has a function, sometimes an air and ground function, and then you can break them either as a get out of jail free card. It will literally cancel any attack and give you iframes. It will stop an enemy from being able to grab you. Like if an enemy grabs you, you can hit it and it'll get you out of their grab. It'll destroy the devil arm, but you get out for free. Or you can charge it up and use a super move of that devil arm,
which oftentimes will also break it.
It will,
or you might get a couple uses. I think there's there's a couple that you get a few uses from.
Oh, interesting.
Like the one that heals you, the vibrator.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The one that charges your. It doesn't charge your exceed, but it gives you an alternate exceed, basically.
Yeah, it's like
that
giving
one
you
you've got 3 or 4
the
uses
tomboy.
from.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But many of them will break
Yeah.
if you use the charged version.
My favorite one that doesn't, that you can just. Oh wait, the charge. That's right. No. That's just the normal use. Yeah, they all break on the charge.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was conflating the charge with the normal use.
Yeah.
So yes, they all break.
And the charge moves can get wild. I love the Gerber's one where it's just this massive laser beam.
Yeah, that takes up like probably like a fifth of the screen.
It's huge.
It's
and
massive.
The camera comes right
It's
down behind
neon
the arrow.
white.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's fun. So yeah, I think Goliath does a great job of teaching dodges and keeping your combo up in between hits. Both of those he teaches well. Artemis is this boss that flies around really fast. Learning to keep your combo up with evasive bosses, using that Devil Snatcher where you can
Yeah, I wish I would have remembered that.
It makes it way easier. And then I think of the other first bosses from the games, and they don't really teach much. They're just a first boss. Cerberus does a way better job in Devil May Cry 3 than the actual first boss does, of teaching you how to play the game. It's a good boss fight. Devil May Cry 4 kind of being the exception. Burial, the big fire demon, he does a pretty good job teaching. Not explicitly. Okay. It's more by proxy, I think, by accident. I don't know if it was intentional, but he does a pretty good job. I know you didn't have quite the experience because it was so easy, but my favorite boss in the game was King Cerberus, I think.
That's the one I mentioned earlier.
He's got a great boss track too. He's got a really good track that plays when you're fighting him, and he has a lot of variety. So he switches between a flame head, electric head, and an ice head, all of which can be pretty devastating. Learning to Royal Guard him and learning how to abuse him in other ways.
Dude, I never used Royal Guard or the Jester.
I didn't have to until him. He really stomped me for a while there. But learning to use Royal Guard and overcoming him, learning to fight him as Nero in Bloody Palace. I mean, he's so big with so much health that you really have a lot of wiggle room to play around with him. And like every character that you fight him as has a way to abuse him in a unique way that you kind of have to really think about and work around him. He can be pretty mobile. If you're like trying to approach him when he's not in fire mode is a big deal. Like learning how to approach him. It's really good, man. I like him quite a bit. Like him a lot. I have here the rest.
Yeah. What do you mean the rest?
The rest of the game outside of the action combat. So items. This is very different from previous games. There are no one-use items. So previously you could buy health items and devil trigger items that refill those things for you. There's kind of a way to help players who were struggling be able to get through the game. Now they don't have that option, and they've replaced it with that system we talked about earlier, the revival system, letting you just kind of brute force your way through. And because you're supposed to use it sparingly, if you plan on replaying the game especially, it encourages you to maybe, learn the boss enough to where you're not just wasting more than you need to. Get it to where you can beat the boss down to, a third of their health, and then use your orb and push the way through. It's a good way of, still encouraging the player to learn the boss, but not force them to have to beat them fair and square. I think it's good. Missions are pretty short, so if you're going for all those S ranks, you're not going to waste a bunch of time.
Yeah.
That's my...
It is a pretty concise game.
We're going to talk about it later, because I did play it, Hi-Fi Rush. That is one of my only complaints of Hi-Fi Rush, is the missions are like over an hour consistently.
Oh my goodness.
And
what?
And they're long, and you need to really do well to get that S rank on those encounters. And so if you miss just a couple encounters, you're going to have to redo the whole hour-and-a-half mission. So having short missions is really nice. The secret missions, they encourage exploration. Exploration has always been a way for anybody struggling in Devil May Cry to, if you're struggling with the combat, look around a little bit. You'll find some stuff to help you. It'll give you a break from combat too. Just look around. Secret missions will give you either devil trigger orbs or blue orbs, which give you more max health. But more importantly, many of the secret missions teach you a hidden mechanic. So, for example, there's a secret mission that forces you to counter the devil scissors to expose their weak spot and shoot them. I didn't know you could do that. I had no idea that was a part of the game.
Why do you counter?
You just hit at the same time they hit.
Oh.
It's pretty easy with Dante with his gauntlet. You just punch really fast. But with other characters like Nero, like I like to shuffle. With the one where it's back forward triangle, he'll step back with iframes and then come back in and swing up. So that way, even if I miss the counter, I'll be safe most of the time. But yeah, if you counter them and then shoot them in the face, it doesn't matter. If you hit them anyway in that brief window that opens, their face will turn red. You can shoot them, and it'll insta-kill them. Insta-kill the scissor enemy. I had no idea. If you let one of the normal Impusas, the kind of base grunt enemy, the fodder enemy, drink blood, they will turn into a red Impusa, the ones that have a bunch of orbs in their butts. So you'll get more orbs out of them. And so you can like lead them, you can leave certain ones alive and lead them over to these blood pools and get them to drink it and get more orbs out of your encounter.
Cool.
It's so lots of little hidden mechanics that it's teaching you through the secret missions. So some of them are just secret missions that are kind of dumb, but I appreciate that delivering, especially if your players are struggling, you're going to be looking around more, maybe following a guide to get all the health items to make sure that they can, do a little better at the game. They'll be rewarded with figuring out how to play the game a little better. Little secrets, how to deal with something easier. I think that's a great design choice. Sure, you could just tell the player. That's what DMC Devil May Cry did. I think that is also valid. But doing a secret mission lets you at least figure it out yourself. I think that's a little bit more rewarding. It'll stick with you longer. Difficulty, we talked briefly about it, but it's more than it reminds me of Dead Space 2. Dead Space 2's difficulty, where you are meant to replay the game. You are meant to experience it on higher difficulties and on New Game Plus. You're meant to keep replaying these games, and the difficulties do more than just add health. Because of the structure of the game, its enemy placements are changing. Even more so in Devil May Cry 5, but in Dead Space, though, increasing the health of these enemies and decreasing your ammo is increasing the intended experience of the game. That dread, that maximizing your efficiency. In this game, when you increase enemy health, you have to be more stylish to beat them with the same level of safety and efficiency in a lower difficulty. If they have more health, like you need to make sure you're maximizing the openings, because otherwise you're going to need a lot more openings. It's going to take longer, risking you dying. But more importantly, they add new enemy placements. They'll add enemies in different spots. Like it's more than just upping the health. And then finally, you have, of course, Legendary Dark Knight Sparta, which is just multiplying every enemy that you encounter by 5. So there's like 50 enemies on screen at once. And
what? Do you have that unlocked?
Yeah. It's default in special edition, so you just have it.
Oh, I want to see it before you.
Yeah, just do the like first mission. It's wild.
Well, I'll just watch you do it.
It's really fun.
I would rather watch someone play Devil May Cry at this point than play. They're just not for me.
Sure, that's fair. Bloody Palace, still brilliant. Obviously, you just do these floors where the devs get to throw enemy designs and enemy placements and matchups that they wouldn't be able to, that they didn't in the base game, and pace it out in a way to try to challenge the player. Limited healing options there. It's pretty fun. The Void being a thing.
Yeah, what is that?
It's just training. Just training. You just
okay.
open it up. You can change what enemies there. You can turn the enemy on aggressive. You can do, you can turn on max Devil Trigger so that you can test out the Devil Trigger moves. There's a really cool,
that's nice.
Yeah, there's a really cool Dante one called Quadruple S. When you're at Triple S rank, you can move in and out of Sin Devil Trigger without expending Sin Devil Trigger.
That's crazy.
It's amazing.
Is that the only move that specifically engages with your current rank?
I think aside from that super taunt that is way too expensive for anybody to unlock. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like you almost have enough.
I almost have enough. I'm getting close.
Who are you going to get it for?
Nero. I play Nero mostly, so. But yeah, that's good. The Void, again, a gift from DMC Devil May Cry, so it's nice to see them not... honestly, the devs like that game. Itsuno was involved in a consulting kind of role, so they like that game. They also took the dynamic music from that. That was the first game to, when you hit S rank, vocals kick in,
If you want to get many red orbs, going through the game is the way to get the most red orbs, right? Just going through the levels?
Sure. The way to get the most red orbs is to go to one specific mission as Dante and use Dr. Faust, the hat. But you'll have more orbs than you can ever do anything with.
Except for buy those super expensive
I
things.
think it'd be faster than buying the thing. Like, if you have the highest level Dr. Faust unlocked, you set the hat on all the enemies and just go to town. I think within 5 minutes you'll have as much as any of those packs easy.
You should do that. Just get all through them. Why not? Or 4 of them, rather.
I don't want to spend money on them. That's so silly.
Yeah, but if you're getting basically infinite currency, just to get the infinite currency for the sake of unlocking those 4 outrageously expensive moves.
Sure. Yeah, I have everything unlocked except there's something after you beat the hard mode, Son of Sparta, you get something it says it's irreversible, so I don't know what that means, so I'm afraid about it, but it only costs 100 red orbs. But it basically forces you to use all of Dante's weapons. So every version of his sword, every version of all that. So it's all available at once, and you're cycling through all of them. I'm like, I'm good. So I don't have that. I don't have the EX provocation skills. I think I have everything else, though. So you get everything pretty quick. Yeah, I beat the game twice and had almost everything, and then did Bloody Palace a few times.
Yeah.
But that's Devil May Cry 5. I've been playing it for, the past 2 weeks or so. I'll keep playing it for a while. It is.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a gap between
after last year
now and
with
the next
nothing
game.
cracking my top 10. This is the first game this year to already crack my top 10.
Wow.
It's just perfect. It is the
What's it
most
knocking off?
video game. I don't remember exactly. I think it was like Sekiro or something.
What?
Dude, this game is perfect. This game's
knocking off Sekiro.
This game's amazing.
I'll see what happens next time you play Sekiro.
I love Sekiro. I mean, it's not like I don't love Sekiro.
Of course.
It's 11, or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
I know.
But as an action game, both are action games. Sekiro is a pure action game. As an action game, this beats it handily in terms of if they're both equal already, just the content alone available in this game beats Sekiro. But to have the depth of I'd argue even more depth than Sekiro in 4 characters, that's a pretty big deal, man.
I think I like the things surrounding combat. I appreciate that they're there in Sekiro, which is what would bring me to a game like Sekiro before.
That's fair.
Devil May Cry.
The tone and the life of that game.
The exploration.
Yeah, it's a world.
I think
that's fair. But as someone
having the raw action is what does turn me off a little bit.
Sure, that's
not
fair.
quite for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I really love it. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite. It has, I think, my favorite. That's a hard choice, but top 5 favorite bosses ever. Fighting Sword Saint Ishin at the end of that game beats anything from Devil May Cry 5 boss-wise.
Sword Saint Ishin.
Yeah. Oh, my blood boils. Face me, Sekiro! He's just awesome. I really love him. Anyway.
One last thing about Devil May Cry. I really wanted to mention this. So I'm going back and listening to our whole catalog. I started with the first episode. I'm a few episodes in now. And something I mentioned early on, I think it was in our first episode, because we were playing walking sims. Yes. We were playing walking sims, and I mentioned how much I love Source Engine. The old 3D visuals of Source Engine are so distinctly Source, and I really appreciate that art style. I like looking at Source games. Anyhow, RE Engine
it looks so good.
I think Source Engine, it does particular things so uniquely that it's very obviously RE Engine. Now, when you're in the demon spaces or in the Clyphot, that big tree you're climbing, it's hard to tell because it's just a bunch of bright neon colors. But anytime you're in an interior space or outside, the lighting, the shading on everything, just the way the textures look, it's so clearly RE Engine. and it looks fantastic.
It looks fantastic, dude. RE7, RE2 remake, RE3 remake, RE8. They all look so good.
It's great. It's an RE4.
It makes me lament that the only thing the Fox engine was ever used for again was a soccer game. Dude, the Fox engine, and Metal Gear Survive, but like it's such a good engine. They're just thrown away. Thank you, Konami.
Yeah. They're supposed to have a big
we'll see.
A big announcement like they did with Silent Hill recently.
I mean, good for them. If they're gonna come back into the gaming space, Silent Hill was the right IP to choose. It's more broad appeal these days than Castlevania, and not as touchy as Metal Gear. It was a good choice. But we're going to take a quick break. I love Devil May Cry 5. I'll talk about with any of you anytime. I love this game. We're going to take a quick break and come back with some NieR Automata.
NieR a tomato. We'll be back.
Bye.
And we're back.
Yay.
Back with another beer, another game. Let's talk about the beer first.
A new life.
This
a new me
is what we were talking about earlier. This is how you've been able to get Jester King for a while. They only recently started canning. And usually they're pretty expensive. This is probably a $23 bottle or something like that. We have the Vague Recollection. I do like this one. I've had this one.
So good.
Yeah. The Black Spanish and Cabernet. So it's a farmhouse ale brewed in Black Spanish and Cabernet casks. Interesting. Always a farmhouse. Well, they maybe released a couple IPAs, but typically farmhouse ales.
I really like Cab Sauv barrel-aged whiskeys. I have an Irish whiskey.
Yes, I've tried a couple.
Yeah, they're so good. I think they should do it more. Good. I know the port and specifically the sherry hit harder for most markets, but it's a good flavor profile, man. I can just
suppose let's leave a little bit
for the wife.
For the wife, that's plenty actually for her.
Yeah, this
do
is
you
good
want a little more?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Man, this is good stuff.
All right, the Vague Recollection.
Clinking sound with our mouths, clink. Yeah. I enjoy the smell of this. I enjoy the taste of this. This is an overall winner.
Yes. This is something I would drink way more often. I should move that. Way more often than the Oyster, but the what's it called? Snorkel. The one we drank last.
This
was surprisingly good.
This is a longer finish too, like a little bit chocolatey. It just more of a package that I want to drink.
Interesting. I'm not picking that up. At least I didn't.
It's just on the very edges, like very edges. It's like a dark chocolate, like the kind that you taste with like in a strawberry dark chocolate bar or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like it. It's good.
You know, when you say strawberry now, specifically chocolate-covered strawberries, that's different.
No, it totally is.
And I see that.
Yeah.
Chocolate-covered strawberries specifically. That's good. I like this a lot.
Let's talk about NieR Automata.
NieR a tomato, as Super Bunny Hop would say. Because no one can seem to come to an agreement that Automata is correct, not Automata.
Automato.
This has been on my list for a while. It looked very interesting. Of course, so many awards, so much buzz in 2017. And then we both follow Super Bunny Hop, not as close as some other people like Skill Up, but Skill Up specifically, what he has said about this game made us very, very interested.
Like earth-shattering
yes. Opus. Bro, what?
Yeah, okay. Let me preface everything we're about to say.
On here.
Both of us consider this a good game.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Both of this some of what we're going to talk about and our frustrations are mostly going to come from the titanic hopes that we had for this game and the potential that is literally sitting in it. I love Platinum. I'm playing action games, more lately. I love weird, esoteric stories. I love philosophy. Like, the package is there. I just don't think it lands at the level that others seem to engage with it at. And we're going to talk about maybe why. But go ahead and open up and tell us a brief overview of the mechanics and a very brief intro to like what this game is.
Okay. It is a platinum action game. So it's very quick. Now, I've only played a little bit
I
of
would
Bayonetta.
specifically call it an action RPG.
Yeah. Because you liken it to Kingdom
we're
Hearts
talking
2
about
a
this a
lot.
lot.
Yes.
I think this is very much like
An
Kingdom
action
Hearts 2.
RPG. There are a handful of weapons. Maybe there are 6 to 8 weapons that you can get. You can upgrade them. There is variety within each weapon, different styles of that weapon that you can use with different combo counters, which actually I like that a lot.
too.
The idea of that, having each weapon with a different heavy and light combo.
Yeah, and so if you assign it to the heavy slot, it will have this many hits. If you assign it to the light slot, it will have this many hits.
A really satisfying dodging system. It just feels so good to dash out of the way.
It's a very generous one, too.
Yes.
Once you've started a dodge, as long as you keep hitting it, you will remain invincible through a hit.
Yeah.
So it's not like if you dodge a hit and the hitbox is still active, you'll just get hit anyway. You can keep dodging through it, phasing through it, really.
It is sort of melodramatic, big, grandiose anime sort of story. And it is dealing with some philosophical questions that I don't think are as deep as people are making it out to be. I'm just not seeing it. And if you've listened to the podcast for a while, especially more recently, we've been mentioning, we go to church. We are Christians. We were raised in the church.
We think a lot about theology.
I not as much as Zack, but I have taken a lot of these questions into account, and I've gotten to the point. I think Zack is going to sort of fill me in on some of these a little more, because I think I've gotten to the point where I already disagree with a lot of this stuff, that it's not even registering as the message that the game is trying to say. Like, I just see the game. It's I really enjoyed the story. The game was fun enough, not for the length, that doesn't justify the length. But anyway, I was having fun, and I just sort of like didn't register that as the message. Sort of like recently I saw, I think this was early last year, I saw Under the Skin for the first time. And I loved Under the Skin. And you didn't like it because of sort of the, like, what it was saying. Is that right? You didn't like what it was saying? I don't even know what that was, because I just watched it and enjoyed it. It wasn't particularly preachy, I thought, in whatever it was trying to say. And I just didn't pick up on the message. So therefore I just enjoyed it, which I think is what happened here. I wasn't looking for that very much, and it just didn't register with me, because I already disagree with those things.
So yeah, that's the brief of the game. Interesting little combat system. You have some RPG mechanics in there, that you kind of have a chip slot that you can manage. You have 3 chip slots you can switch between, so you can have a couple different builds you're working through at the same time. And it's fairly interesting. You can do some stuff with that. We'll get into that later. There's also lots of talking, lots of cutscenes.
It is an RPG.
And it's an RPG.
Big, grandiose anime story.
Yeah. And so the basic premise for the uninitiated, we're going to talk toy spoilers, story spoilers,
Yeah,
but
the whole thing will be spoiled.
Yeah, the whole thing is spoilers, but just a brief intro. You can play as 2B or not 2B, but that's the joke. But yeah, you play as 2B, who's this kind of combat robot, or combat android, specifically android.
Yes.
And humanity has been kicked off of Earth by an invading alien force who has created these machines that self-replicate and are meant to destroy humanity. Humanity has retreated to the moon. There's just a very small remnant left. They've created androids in their image that go down, and the machines are humanoid-esque, but like literally, if you didn't know what you were looking at, the androids look like people in a game.
Yeah. In fact, I thought the Resistance were people.
Yeah.
until
yeah.
the second run.
Yeah, and so it's...
I thought it was a resistance camp of humans that came back from the moon to try to reclaim this area.
Yeah, it's all androids, and they're fighting machines, and you're sent to Earth to figure out, to help this resistance camp and take care of some machine activity in the area. But as you do, you find machines behaving in weird ways, potential sentience going on, and until you finally meet a machine that looks like an android, an androgynous android, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? And this machine is in control of half of the network, and the machine network, and it's becoming a problem, and you have to deal with it. Throughout this, the gameplay is mostly that action combat, a couple of stall combos, some launch combos that you can do, and then there is a kind of some shooting segments. What's the word? Shoot 'em up, like shmup style shooting segments, which also are probably the most interesting piece of combat. You have to deal with the same shoot 'em up enemy orbs in actual ground combat,
like Returnal.
Yeah, like
Returnal just sort of shifted the camera.
Not as cleanly as that, but yeah.
No, of course.
Yeah, and you're dealing with it in a similar way. You have a little pod that shoots those, that can destroy some of those bullets and things like that. And then you have a little hacking mini game that's kind of like a very basic 3D shooting thing.
A twin stick shooter. All with rudimentary 3D objects.
Yeah, it's fine. So let's I want to talk, we're going to get right into it.
Yes, let's go.
Balancing ludonarrative, use of your gameplay mechanics with the gameplay mechanics themselves. So when can you make a game, quote, not fun? Right? So I am the biggest defender. I defend on this cast all the time games that are not outright fun. Right? I defend games like Death Stranding and Red Dead Redemption 2. Games that for a long stretch of these games, you are not having fun. Like, Devil May Cry 5 is a video game. That is a game.
Yes.
Through and through. That's what it's trying to be.
The game of all time.
Yeah, the game of all time, exactly. And that's what it's going for. This is very much not that. Many of the boring, slower, repeated sections are defended by the fan base as helping emphasize the narrative. They're in service of the narrative. So let's address that. I want to address that right now. So the first thing you do, you replay all of Route A in this game. So ending A, you play as 2B, you go through like 10 chapters, and you play the game. It takes, 10 hours maybe. Then you replay all of them with some slight contextual changes, with a character with fewer combat options, and primarily relying on that same twin stick shooter hacking minigame being repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, endlessly, just to fight these enemies. Because you just aren't doing enough damage. You're supposed to.
He's not a combat unit.
He's not a combat unit. He's a scout unit, and so he's using hacking to survive. There are long stretches. You have to go through every single mission basically as him. There's mission 1 is a little different, and the last mission is a little different, I think. Everything else is the same. Route C is completely unique. So, they would say, well, you're getting new context to the story through someone else's perspective. Okay. Why did you make him less interesting to play? You could have had a new mechanic instead of just making him weaker. Well, it's in service of the narrative. He's supposed to feel inferior to 2B because he's not a combat unit. Okay. I, as the player, am losing interest in what is happening in Route B because you have made it just as long. The amount of changes to his perspective are so minimal. There are a couple little intro cutscenes and exit cutscenes for each chapter. You could have done so many other things to deliver the same experience. I could have gotten the same, wow, he is weaker and he looks at 2B like a goddess.
I think one of the things
you could have done that in 2 hours.
I think one of the key things they should have done is not make him the main character in Route 2. Make him the playable character, but not the main character. Still have 2B getting the calls for where to go 2B telling you to come on.
See, and
like if
that
you're not
would've-
moving along,
that would have doubled down on this.
Yeah.
And it would have increased the urgency. The gameplay would have been driven by her. You playing as the NPC is like weird, and there's more to engage with there. Again, I have it listed here.
I think he should have been more of a support unit to 2B as well, instead of hacking to do damage. Like, so I'm almost thinking like Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite, how she would get ammo for you. She would throw these things to you. She would heal you, and she would be following you.
Even
like,
if the
just
game
play as
you can
Elizabeth,
make
basically.
a weaker character and still have an interesting character to play as without having to do what they did in this game, which I think was pretty lazy way to implement. Oh, well, he's a weaker character and we need to see his perspective. You could have done way more with that, way more, and what you're doing is wasting my time. And I've heard all the arguments defending Route B. It's too long for it. It did not need to, even if we keep it as it is, it did not need that much time to deliver what it did.
It was about 8 hours, I think.
I think it took me 6.5. Yeah,
Sure.
because I rushed it. I was like, this is a waste of my time. The combat is supposed to feel rote because it is supposed to feel meaningless and empty. That's an argument I hear pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
So by the end of this 30-plus hour game, you're like, this combat is the same it has always been. The enemies are mostly all the same. There's very little enemy variety in this game. And even the variety that is there, you rarely changed your strategy for dealing with them.
Yeah.
You're typically doing the same combos to kill all of them anyway. We'll talk about why.
Even then, they're not even combos. I'm just mashing buttons.
Yeah, and there's some stall combos you can do with 9S and things like this, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because even if I wanted to change up my weapons for weapon variety, by the time I hit late game, unless you are grinding out every optional mission and going and grinding for parts, you're pretty much only going to have enough to afford the upgrades for 1 or 2 weapons. I got 2 weapons up to level 4.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm going to use those 2 weapons, so I have 2 different loadouts. I can use the heavy and light and switch heavy light.
Yeah, the economy is whack. It does not let you you're not getting enough resources to upgrade a new weapon to the state of your current weapon for it to be a viable switch.
So many of these things are justified by saying, well, it's supposed to feel empty and meaningless because it's empty and meaningless to be doing what you're doing. Like, you're just killing machines mindlessly. Okay. Then why didn't you make it even more bland to play? Why was it fun for the first 10 hours for me? Why was it fun for that long at all? Why wasn't the combat more rote and more mechanical? If that's what they're going for. This is more complex than many button mashy games, right? Why not make it even more bland?
I would, yeah. I think I'll stand on the side of the defenders here. When you look at 2B and 9S together, 2B is enjoying this. This is what she's meant for, and she doesn't see it as meaningless. Whereas 9S is already on the path of.
But then A2 is genuinely reveling in murdering machines, and by that time I am done. I'm sick of this. She has nothing to differentiate her. If you made her a totally overpowered, character that's just whipping out all these crazy combos, getting way more mileage out of all of the weapons, that would have fit the narrative even better. Because A2 is just wants to murder every machine, Yeah. There's just this. There's you can't justify it with these things. I don't think it's a strong enough argument.
I suppose.
So for character reasons, might be an answer, like you brought up there. If that's the answer, then 2B should feel even cooler and 9S even weaker.
She should.
Yes. If the game is not, here's my summary. If the game is neither fun nor engaging, you've lost your audience. Both Death Stranding and Red Dead Redemption 2, when they are not fun, they are engaging. They are engaging you in something, a part of your brain, some aspect of your thought that doesn't get engaged usually. Red Dead Redemption 2 is engaging the lifestyle aspect of gaming, the immersive part where I just want to go hunt for 2 hours
Or play
by
poker.
myself. Or play poker. I played so much poker in Red Dead. Or Death Stranding. You're just walking, taking it in, calming the active gaming centers of your brain for the sake of soaking in the world. Sure, that I think that's secondary to the trailblazing aspect, the implementing a long-term plan and keeping your eye out for little distractions and keeping your eye out for, can I really take one more thing for these people? I know they need it. Let me grab that one more case. I don't know, but there's this river that I know is coming up. Like these long-term decisions. Usually games are pretty short-term decision makers unless it's like for a build, right? Which is a long-term thing, but you know exactly what you're building towards. There's enough variety, this trailblazing kind of thing in Death Stranding. It's engaging something different. It is not fun to walk around that game, but it is engaging a different part of your brain in a unique way. This game is not doing either.
I think the biggest failure of this game is that you can't stop and pee.
I mean, if you want to talk about masterpiece level design elements, the piss meter is what I need in my life. So,
gracious,
so I did compare it to Kingdom Hearts 2, which that game is even more button mashy than this game. And yet I can play that game for 50 hours and I've played that game to beginning to end 4 times. Why? Is it just nostalgia? I'm pretty harsh on nostalgic things lately. Like I'm pretty harsh on revisiting these games and going, no, this is just boring now. Kingdom Hearts has crazy enemy variety, crazy level variety, crazy world design variety. It keeps the pace up constantly. You have Valor mode, you have Wisdom mode, you're getting these new drive forms, you're getting new forms of magic, you're unlocking new you're slowly unlocking new things you can implement. You're just throwing new things at you, and most importantly, there are so many different types of enemies. So many different types of enemies that you can engage with on, multiple levels. If you're more of a magic user, if you're more of a melee user, if you're more of a... And on the harder difficulties, reflecting stuff back at them, being smart with your dodge timing, and all the bosses are really well designed. It just feels more unique and more varied, and there's more life in it, so that helps too. I know that this game couldn't have that level of life because it's not Disney, but that helps a lot for the pace of the game. It lasts for a long time. But Kingdom Hearts ends up engaging you more like Dark Souls. Dark Souls using the same combo on every enemy. You have one sword, basically, once you find the sword you're going to use for the rest of the game. But the enemy design keeps it interesting. How you dodge, how you handle the space, how you plan these things out. Kingdom Hearts is fun for a similar reason. The spacing of enemies, how you're using your stronger items and drive forms and stuff like that. So I think that the variety and the enemy design go a long way to making that game more playable than this one.
Yeah. Another thing that I think could have benefited this game. So sure, the combat is a little more complex than some other action RPGs. It's not very complex though. As we have well established now, for us, not complex enough to hold for 35 hours. I think they should have made it leaned into the lack of complexity. I'm thinking of something, though I've not played these games, I've just watched friends play them. Something like Dynasty Warriors, where it's
flash it up, give you big moves,
hordes of enemies.
And talk about it becoming just mowing through enemies like nothing, and really emphasizing
doing that
point.
from set piece to set piece, I think would have held me more.
Yeah,
I would have been fine just watching this super hot anime chick and her little boy toy kill
Simp Nation.
Hundreds. Yeah. Simp Nation rise up. Just mow through endless hordes. I think would have made it a little more fun. Make the combat a little more mindless, so when you get there, you're not as bored by the time you get to the cutscenes.
I don't know. And it's not even like, oh, this is boring for platinum. This is just not particularly engaging. I would like to revisit Kingdom Hearts 2, just because I like Kingdom Hearts 2, but because I want to know, what is being done here differently. I think there's a lot of, little weird mini games and stuff they do to break the pace, that instead of the same twin-stick shooter mini game every time. There's a lot of really weird little moments and set pieces that break up the action in Kingdom Hearts 2. There's just a lot going on that you can engage with, and the pace is just constantly up. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Again,
I would have liked to see a lot of stuff that I would have liked to see, but I didn't.
Again, there's, it's hard to balance this narrative with the gameplay, but if you wanted it to be even more in line, like make the gameplay really line up with the narrative, you could have done much better than what this game is doing. I feel like it's just poor defenses. But let's talk about some praises. This, again, is not a bad game. There's a lot good that's happening.
It's just, it's so highly praised. We don't understand why. And you said, if you do these things, you start to lose your audience. While that might typically be true, we are definitely in the minority here. Yeah. It did not lose its audience.
Yeah, I think the story held people.
It did for me. I enjoyed the story a lot.
And people like the gameplay. Like, many people online that they're like, oh, the gameplay's super fun. There's actually a lot of depth there, and they'll post a super high combo video or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not even like a style system to incentivize you to do that stuff. Like, it's just... and a lot of people won't even discover that you can do some of this stuff. There's no way that you would figure that out on your own, Yeah. So some of it even seems like it's breaking the game a little bit, So most players aren't going to engage with it like that. So some praises. I like that the menu is your actual inner workings. Mm-hmm. When you record, like, it's like, hey, can you turn your volume up or whatever. We're going to record this for posterity's purposes or whatever. And when you're going through as 9S, it literally recorded that. And so when you go back through Waking Up 2B, everything you did is playing out the same way. So he told me to turn on self-destruct, and I said no 12 times. And so I had to watch myself say no 12 times. And Amanda just turned and glared at me, and I am dying as he goes, no, you have to turn that on. I'm sorry 2B. Click. No, you have to turn that on. I'm sorry 2B. And I just did 12 times. I wanted to see if the game would let me just say no, but and it recorded the whole thing. That was a great moment. It was really good. Speaking of that, the chipset, so the RPG mechanics, you add chips in that boost your damage, or can be there's some that are pretty unique, like when you be able to attack even while you're dodging, and some active chips.
Dude, what if you got up to go make a sandwich during that, and then you can't skip it later on?
You can't skip it. You have to watch the whole time. I wonder.
Yeah, what if you just left it on?
I want to know.
To go have a conversation, and then you come back and like, all right, I'll continue my game now.
It's incredible. So that chipset,
oh my goodness,
it dictates your abilities. Well, it also dictates your HUD, because everything is part of you as a player. So
you plug every bit of the UI.
So you can also take off pieces of your HUD to make room for more of the chips that you want in there. That's a great touch.
Yeah, you just turn off the whole HUD, which is like 15
Yeah,
slots.
You get a lot of slots. Also, though, your OS is one of those chips, and you can take that out and get a game over. Like, it's... I do like the idea of joke endings. I think there are too many joke endings, but I like that they're there. So there's a boss in there that it was the only boss I struggled against. I absolutely eviscerated this game on the normal difficulty. But there's one boss that I got stuck on. It's Hegel. I think it's the first boss as A2. It's the big flying orb guy in the sky. He stomped me. He just does so many lasers, does so much damage. I looked it up on hard mode. Apparently, he's the noob stomper. Like, he's the one that puts the hurt on. So I was like, okay, I could go grind levels because I'm definitely under-leveled right now. Instead, I looked at my chips, and I turned myself into a ranged behemoth with auto heal, and eviscerated him. And I was like, okay. See, I like this game as an RPG. Like, I
really enjoyed the chip system.
Yeah, it was really good. And that was the best moment I had in that game, was beating Hegel. It was really fun. Yeah, that's good stuff. I'll let you run with this. You know way more about this than I do. But the music.
Yes.
It's by far the best part about this game.
Yes.
I would argue it might be one of the 5 best game soundtracks ever made.
Quite possibly. Like, it is. In fact, the other NieR games are also just as gorgeous. Maybe not. There are some tracks in here that really are.
I mean, we mentioned dynamic music with Devil May Cry. Like, it builds as your style increases, the vocals come in. This is dynamic music to an exponentially greater level.
Yes. So
it is literally layering notes and music in based on the most minute changes in the environment seamlessly.
yeah. I have mentioned a few times on this podcast the Creaks soundtrack. Creaks from Amanita Design, the little puzzle platformer. So Creak's soundtrack separates every layer of its already very complex music. Every layer, so as you're progressing through each, not level, but world basically. So you might have this new puzzle mechanic that's going to be relevant for, let's say, 9 different rooms, different puzzle rooms with this increasing difficulty of this one mechanic. Then you move on to another puzzle mechanic. So this one track that's in the game, or for this level, each puzzle you go through the level is going to have just one of these layers. But as you near the solution for one room, the next layer, like pieces of it start to come in. Like as you walk up to solutions, like notes in particular instruments from the next layer will start to bleed in. And then once you finally solve it, you get the new layer of the track. And then by the time you finish the entire room, the little cutscene is happening and you're walking over to the next area of the game for the new mechanic, you have the full track playing. This game is doing things like that as well. As you progress through an entire area with a new cutscene, with a new combat encounter, you see a little hidden thing. It's layering on pieces of this mechanic. Of each track. On top of this, though, so it's doing that very similarly. However, it's not tied to gameplay in the way that Creaks is. Creaks is, its music is a hint system. It's incredible. So it's not doing that. But something this does that I think is gorgeous. I was sitting having coffee this morning, reading an interview with the vocalist.
She is
incredible.
Wow.
Yes. So I was reading an interview with her, and I was like, "Oh, there's a song from Replicant they mention." So I went to listen to that song and cried over a cup of coffee, listening to this fake language for this song from a game I haven't played. It's gorgeous. So
it's so good.
The chaos language is what she calls it. In this game, it's set. So spoilers. Are we going to talk about the twist that happens in Route B for part of your discussion? Okay, then I'll mention it here.
Oh, we will. Yeah, but it's fine. Mention it here anyway.
Okay, sure. Humans went extinct like 1,000 years ago or something. The whole idea of this alien war between the humans and them being on the moon.
Both the aliens and the humans have been long dead.
Yes, it's just robots now. In fact, the humans were extinct before the aliens ever came. And then the aliens have gone extinct. So now it's just these androids that the humans built for some reason. We don't know why. It was not to fight aliens, but they are here. And some sentient androids made up this lie to give the other androids purpose. And then there are also these robots that are approaching sentience in varying degrees of sentience. So anyway, humans being extinct for many years, we don't actually know what language that they would be talking, the androids. It's not English or whatever you're listening to. It's not Japanese. It's not even discussed. Because all language is dead in this game. So, for each track, she was given direction on some of the tracks, like German for this one, or French for this one, but most of them were just her own thing. She would listen to the song a couple times, and then she would think of a language that feels right for this particular song, how the sounds of the song and the language might interact together. And then she would go and immerse herself in the language on YouTube, watch movies or something in a foreign language, and write down sounds that she liked from the language. And then she would just sing these sounds and find collections of them that she liked. And then she would sing that over and over to distort it a bit, so it sounded like it's 1,000 years dead now. So she calls it the chaos language, and it's just this far-flung dead version of languages that we know here on Earth. It's really, really awesome. I love all of it.
And
it's gorgeous, dude.
One of my favorite things they do is during peak moments, they'll sample lines that the machines are saying into like songs, like this cannot continue, this cannot continue. Like it's really good into this really deep, profound track. It's really
or we will become God, or we will become as God.
We will become as God. It's great, dude. There's so many great musical moments.
It's really an achievement. It's amazing.
That's the best word for it. In fact, that comes from one of my favorite spots where you stumble across these robots engaged in a facsimile of sex and intimacy, and
it's like this orgy that's happening,
but like
they don't know that it's an orgy.
It's like, come to me, my love, I love you, like, and it's like really like they're just trying to reproduce in a meaningful way outside of just copying their code, and
obviously it doesn't work.
Yeah,
they're robots, but they don't know that.
Tragic little thing, that was the first time I was like, oh, this game could go places.
Yes.
And then it didn't. But
it went some places.
No, it did. That's fair.
But great ideas. Really great ideas throughout.
And great ways to like explain it visually a lot of the time. Like to show it visually.
Oh, the king. They made a baby king.
Yeah.
That they tried to raise.
But of course it didn't grow.
We have no idea how long this little forest kingdom has been doing their own thing and waiting for their king to grow up.
But of course he doesn't.
It's a robot. They built a baby.
Can you have life without growth? Like, just really interesting questions, that, have been asked a million times, but, like, have been visualized in a unique way. And that's definitely the strength of the game.
I think that statement there leads us pretty well into the discussion of philosophy here.
Let me just run through some of this stuff real quick. So I like the reuse of the large spaces. People don't like the emptiness of the game. I think that's
I do. I like that a lot.
Great reuse of the spaces. It was interconnected. It was really pretty and empty, and I liked it.
Except for the separation, especially between, I think that you push this box several times. They just put this huge gamer-ass game box blocking your way. Made of like gears and things. It's so out of place. It's discolored. And you just like push that out of the way to enter into the next area. You do that a couple times. That was stupid, dude.
So let's jump into the philosophy. I have some more gripes I wanted to talk about. We can talk about them after. So let's talk. So obviously a huge draw of this game is the philosophy. I've seen videos titled like The Great Humanist Parable and like all of these, I've listened to many personalities who cover games talk about why this game is a masterpiece. And most of it revolves around these deep philosophical questions that the game is posing. And again, to its strength, visualizing in a very unique way.
Yeah.
I think the way it visualizes these questions is amazing. I'm going to make the argument as we go through some of these questions that it is a far better poser of questions than an explorer of them, and that it actually doesn't answer much of anything. And when it tries to answer, it is a contradictory mess of a platitude. I really don't think it does a good job. So, I have here a couple quotes from the game. The first one is the very end of the game, after Route C, everything's... And they recapitulate what 2B says at the beginning and exposit. So the pods are re-putting together using the same exact pieces, all of the androids, all of the machines, and are going to try again. They're just going to try again, see if something different happens. They sound hopeful about it, ironically, based on what we're going to talk about. But, they sound hopeful about it. They're putting all these pieces back together, like 9S and 2B laying there. Like, let's try again. So they say this. Everything that lives is designed to end. They are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. However, life is all about the struggle within the cycle. That is what I believe. So it's this myth of Sisyphus. So I'm sure that plenty of people have talked about this already. I didn't hear anybody talk about it, but I'm sure it's been covered. The myth of Sisyphus, it was exposited by Albert Camus, the French philosopher. He wrote The Stranger, and he essentially said that since we are all stuck with, for some stupid reason, the need to roll this boulder constantly up this mountain and to watch it fall all the way back down, right? So Sisyphus was cursed to continue to roll a boulder up a mountain and never reach the top. It would always fall down. He'd have to start over. We are all Sisyphus, and our boulder keeps rolling down. So he says the only solution to have an enjoyable life is to learn to love to roll the boulder, which can be interpreted many ways. The way that I have taken it for myself in the past is even if there is an ultimate meaning to life, we are all cursed with the need to search for meaning. Nobody is able to give up the search for meaning, it seems. And Albert Camus would say there is no mountaintop, that there is no meaning. So we might as well learn to enjoy that search for meaning. That's one way of interpreting it. There are other ways to interpret the myth of Sisyphus. But that's kind of what the game has ended with. So the question is, has the game justified this answer? And I would say not even a little bit. Because immediately following that, they asked the question, well, if we're using all the same parts, will it turn out any different? And they say, oh, we can hope so. What are you hoping for? You just said life is about the struggle. Like, why are you hoping? You should just hope it turns out the same. Like, they'll enjoy the struggle. Like, you haven't made a claim that there is any meaning. So why would you hope that it turns out differently or the same? Why would you hope at all? Like, and throughout the whole game, it's been this focus on this tragedy. Look at these people lost and unable to cope with the lack of meaning in the world. Sure, none of them learned to love it. We have no character to show us this is how they should have lived. You know, this is what happens when you do learn to love the struggle. That doesn't happen, which doesn't need to happen. We just see the mess. And so there can be no claim to hope for anything better. There's nothing that's been shown to us. So either this has to be nihilistic, which the ending is not. It is a hopeful ending. And it's a soft ending. But that's not justified by what you just stated and what you showed us in this game. You showed us a wild and raucous, bloody dearth of meaning. You know? So why are you hoping for anything better or different if there is nothing better or different? Maybe they'll learn to love the struggle, is maybe what you're saying, right? That could be one of the responses, but you haven't pushed deep into that. You haven't even explored that yet, you know? You're just now bringing it up at the very end. Well, I mean, it's like the vaudeville act, the guy coming in at the end. Well, wasn't that quite the show? Well, maybe they'll do it better next time. Like, no, that's not a meaningful philosophical treatise. And it treats it like it. And many reviewers treat it like one. I don't know. I didn't think it landed very well.
It was not registering with me. Because I don't think I particularly agree with any of those things.
I don't either, yeah. I would argue... So Dostoevsky was also an existentialist, but unlike Camus, who came much later than Dostoevsky... Much later? Yeah, much later. Dostoevsky believed there was a top of the mountain. He just believed that we could never in this life see it. He believed that there was meaning, but we could only ever skirt the edges. But when we felt it, we knew it. He has a famous part of his book, The Brothers Karamazov, where there's this monk who, there's supposedly in Orthodoxy, when a saint starts to decompose, their body smells good. This legend in Orthodoxy. And Alyosha, the father monk of he's a monk, and the father of the parish has died, and his body starts to stink. And he rushes outside and kisses the ground. And I read that first, I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? I don't understand what's happening. And for him, he has recognized that to have an exception to rotting is not beautiful. The fact that we rot is the beauty, right? And so we have this, like, that this man was real and just as human as anyone. That's the beautiful part of what's going on here. So again, he skirts the meaning. He only can see what he has, right? But when he gets it, when he taps it, it's money. And so, it's a far more, I think, worthy way to understand life from, I think, personally. But, if you are a materialist or whatever and don't believe in essence or meaning or things like this, then I think Myth of Sisyphus is a healthy way to live. I don't think this game does a good job of justifying it at all. But I think that Myth of Sisyphus is a healthy way to live. But I prefer Dostoevsky's take, definitely. So I obviously disagree with it on a philosophical level, but I'm willing to entertain you if you present a good philosophical thing. But again,
yes,
the game is far better at presenting questions and visualizing them than answering them. Far better.
Yeah. I will agree with that.
Here we go. Next one. A future is not something given to you. It is something you must take for yourself. You just said the struggle is the point. What are you reaching for? What future should you aim for? Like, you've given me no foundation. And don't give me this, well, it's up to you, bullcrap. It was up to them. And look what they did, like, you've given me no foothold to genuinely engage with how do I live my life in a better way. Again, you've just posed the question and given me the platitude. It's something you must take for yourself. Like, that is literally meaningless in the context of what you've shown me. Oh man, dude, if we ever got popular and people listen to this podcast, this would have so many, like, hateful comments. But I'm sorry. I would encourage anyone to try to talk me out of this. I have a very good friend. He has he's on his way to his PhD right now. And he's an atheist and a materialist. And I showed him this game and he said, this is the most drivel I've ever seen in my life. He says, I am very grateful that I have actual thinkers to back up what I believe.
Is this Mr. Werner?
No. Oh. No. Yeah, it's I have a friend named Morgan, but, he's a really smart guy, and it's just, I think drivel's unfair. Again, I think it visualizes and poses questions well, but granted, he is nearly a PhD now, so he probably has a bit of a different bar.
Yeah, I do wonder. This is a fresh thought, so do with that what you will. I do wonder if the reason for these inconsistencies is that need to reach out to something else, reach out to something other than yourself, for something more than yourself, and that sense of hope that the pods have when they're rebuilding is inherent, and it's very difficult to right away.
It could be.
I'm not saying the game is making that statement. I'm saying I wonder if that's why it's there, because the author has a difficult time disassociating with those things that I think are pretty inherent. That hope and that need for something greater.
Yeah, the search for meaning. Yeah. If you don't want to say something greater, you could just say meaning too, right? And sure, but if that's the case, then the ending becomes much more nihilistic, and it doesn't have a nihilistic tone, right? If, well, they're just going to keep doing this because they will always hope for something better, even though there is nothing better, and the cycle continues without meaning. What he's going for is meaning so important? That's what I think he's reaching for here. Is meaning all that necessary? We seem to need it and need to search for it, so how do we search for it without killing each other? That seems to be what he's asking, but he explores it so... He barely explores that. And at this end, he gives us this, hopeful little ditty with a couple platitudes that start to look at it with an answer. And again, you don't have to answer it, but you try to answer it a little bit, which I guess is noble in itself, but It's a weak answer, and you haven't really explored that. It's not until the end that you start to put the pieces together that, oh, this is all going to go wrong. Like, all of this is going to go wrong. So what do we do with... Sorry, this is just so much to think through. Like, to try to phrase, because he jumps everywhere. But what are we left with if, like, so he has basically said, why bother searching for meaning if there is none? Like, how can we live without it? How can we live without it? None of the rest of the game has delved into that. It has just explored that we search for meaning and this is the end. There has been no exploration of, well, why do we search for meaning? And well, there's been a little bit of that, but should we search for meaning? Can we not search for meaning? Those haven't really been addressed until this ending. And I think the game would have, if it's going to make these statements at the end, would have done better to engage with those ideas more and to get those questions being asked earlier. Because then at least, even if, I don't think you need to answer those questions at the end of the game, but then at least the player, they'd be in the mind of the player, and the player could be chewing on them as these pods set these things. And then it can be more of a kind of emotionally agnostic, ambivalent ending, right? Now it can be less hopeful, but also not as dire, and let the player walk away with the answers that they have formulated during their time with the game on those questions. But you pose them so late. That's, I think, an issue.
Sure.
God is dead. Is there any meaning if God is dead? That's a huge question. So obviously the creator of the androids is the human. They made the androids in their image. It's enough on the nose to be a metaphor. Mm-hmm. And their meaning, their purpose in life is based on the fact that humans exist. If humans don't exist, what is their purpose? What do? They have to make their own meaning. Can you make your own meaning? Now we're getting into questions it asks throughout the game. This, in my opinion, is the most interesting question it asks, and the one it explores the best is, if God is dead, is there any meaning? And do we have enough in us to make our own meaning? I think the game does a great job of saying we really suck at making our own meaning. We don't seem to be able to. Is it okay if we search for meaning, knowing that there isn't any because there is no God to give us meaning, and learn to enjoy the ride? This is a question it answers well. It doesn't explore it as much as I would have liked still, but it does. This is the one it handles best, in my opinion. Obviously, I come in with a lot of history of thought on this question. I think that is the only answer if God is dead. If we are stuck living with this desire for meaning in us, to learn to enjoy the search knowing we'll never find it. I believe that is the only healthy way to live without God, because I think, as the game presents very well, we are incapable of making our own meaning. We can't do it. We need a supernatural arbiter to assign value, right? To assign, so why is it more meaningful for me to care for an orphaned girl than it is to leave her abandoned, right? Why does that fill me with more purpose than leaving her alone? Because we have, because there is a God who decreed the way the world should be, we screwed it up. And as we move towards the way that the world should be, we are participating with the literal word that holds all this stuff together. We are participating in the unity of that chorus, right? And so it's what we were designed to do. So that's the way that God that's one of the way a God would prescribe meaning. And without that, how do you have meaning? I struggle with arguments for how there can be morality without God. I really struggle. I've heard all the major ones, and even the strongest ones are very utilitarian, because it is useful to have morality. Mm-hmm. Well, then morality could be anything. And then when you say, okay, but why should we have it? Oh, so that we can have a harmonious society. Okay, why is that better than a discordant society? Because more people should live. Why should more people live? You start digging down. The second you bring up should, the argument's over. Because should is a moral statement. Should. In fact, that's C.S. Lewis's primary argument for why humans are unique. A tree does not ask, should it do something? A tree does exactly what a tree will do in the situation that it is in. If it is on fire, it will burn. There are people who have been on fire who choose to continue to burn. Because we have this weird ability to influence and ask the question of should.
And override what we would do naturally.
Exactly. And which is a justification for his talk about original sin and things like this, right? So again, I think the game if the game would have tried to make the statement that there is meaning without God, it would have a lot much more of an uphill battle. People have tried to make that argument. I'm sure some have done it competently. I've never read one. I'm sure there are plenty who have tried and succeeded even. But I like the direction it takes. I think it does a good job of showing it, but then at the end it tries to make this kind of hopeful, nearly moral statement. Well, maybe they'll do better next time. They don't say that explicitly, but that's what they're implying. Maybe they'll do better next time. What is better? What is better? Without God, what is better? Better is purely up to you, and you as the arbiter, you have no greater say than the other person next to you. The only say is force and power. The ability to enforce what you believe becomes the only guideline without a high moral arbiter. Yeah. See, again, game's good at posing questions. I just don't think it does a good job exploring them. This is the exception. I think it does a good job of exploring this question. Interesting quote from the Adam character. He's the machine, the androgynous machine dude, person, thing, machine.
Yes.
Existence precedes essence. He says existence precedes essence, which I don't agree with, but I don't have to because it's interesting. So existence precedes essence. So essence, from an Aristotelian perspective, would be the fundamental isness of a thing. I like that word. But the nature of a thing. It would be the nature of a thing. So essence and form are the way Plato would describe it. So you have the essence of the thing, what it is. The form is how it manifests in reality. That's the best way of explaining it. So an easy description would be you have matter, which takes the form of this table. That's not really it, because Plato would also argue that there's an essence to the table. It has tableness. But so example for us, we are, I am a human being, but the way that I manifest in reality and interact with reality is physically, like this. This is my form, my face, my senses, my features. This is my form. Gregory of Nazianzus would say, you're not a barrel, right? Your spirit and your body are tied together. Your spirit both receives input and outputs back through your body. So it receives input just the same way that it can put out. You manifest will into reality through your physical form. So essence, what you are, right? Some people call it spirit, your spirit. A Christian would say it nefesh, the breath of life breathed into you. Your isness. I would argue that is inexorably tied to your existence. Your existence is, you exist because of your isness.
Because you have essence?
Yeah, right? In order for a machine to be sentient, existence must precede essence in this scenario where God is dead. If God is not dead, God could, in his will, take a thing that exists and put essence into it. But then it would be a new thing, because God has declared an essence for it, and now it is a new thing it has the same form. It is manifested in reality in the same way, but its essence has been newly given, right? So even in that scenario, it's different. So for a machine to get existence on its own, to have an essence, a being of its own, existence must precede essence. It must exist first so that it can achieve an essence, right, on its own, without a god, without the aliens or the humans to impose that for them. So, so that was an interesting thing. Again, brought up once, never explored. Never explored. What I just did here was all me.
More exploration than in the game.
Like,
that's one of the big things that I would also... I mean, pretty much all of this, I'm just like, guys, what are you saying right now? All the reviewers, that huge fans of this game.
And I don't
just not seeing it. This one's a big disagreement for me. I don't... because I believe in a god. Like, I don't...
Yeah.
I exist differently than a rock exists.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because my spirit comes first.
Exactly. Yeah. You have this... But then I also think it's interesting to say that, like, your spirit without your body would be not human fully.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's, your body is just tied to... It is the input and output for your spirit into the world. Yeah, this is all interesting stuff. I take a pretty... Again, being a pretty old school high church kind of guy, I take a pretty... I take a pretty Aristotelian view of the world, form, essence, all those things. I tend to hold to those. Not as fact necessarily, but as definitely as close as I've found to be able to think of the world in that way. I like it a lot. So, yeah, that's NieR. Some more gripes if you want to run through them real quick.
Sure.
Really fast. A hacking minigame gets old fast.
You mentioned that one.
Weapon upgrade system. We already talked about that.
Cleared the economy.
The enemy design. We already talked about it. And then last one. It wants you to ask, why are we even fighting? And then proceeds to give you nothing else to do to progress except fight. Yeah. There are silly endings you get from rejecting to fight in certain scenarios. But then you don't get to experience the content. Compare this to something like Everhood, which when you take the pacifist route, gives you an entirely new and very difficult boss fight that you don't get on the normal run.
Yeah.
Give me content to engage with the way that you are wanting me to think.
Can you do you get an ending if you kill Pascal? Do you know? Like in the beginning when you meet Pascal and you're like, no, machines, destroy them all.
No, you don't. I don't think you... I don't know if you can kill Pascal. I know you can kill the whole rest of the village. I accidentally did kill the merchants at the village. I pushed the wrong button and a blazer blasted them into bits. Well, they're just machines, so...
That's all they are. Yeah.
Just prove to the audience that I totally missed the point of the game. I'm really curious, though. If anybody's listening, literally anybody at all... and you're mad and you say, no, you don't get it, you're an idiot, Zach. Great. I want to like this game like you do. I think people... I am the first person...
Come tell us. Come on Discord.
I am the first person... Tell us. I am bizarre as a human because I'm not a Joseph Anderson. I don't go into a game and want to provide the most critical, how could this have been better in every way, full package... something that's good for a developer to see. This is a full criticism of your game. Here's everything you should have thought about. I don't play games like that. When I play a game, I want to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
And I will make excuses. I will find a way to enjoy the game if it is possible. Because I just want to have fun. Or not even fun. I want to have a worthwhile time with the game. I forgive so much crap and still have fun. Because that's what I want. I want to have a meaningful experience with the game. I just didn't get that here.
Mm-hmm.
So please, if you can change my mind and make me enjoy this game, you will be doing me a favor. I'm not here to combat you and show you how you're wrong. I'm begging you to show me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, what did we miss in the gameplay? That's actually the biggest thing for me.
For me too.
If I don't particularly agree with something and it's not overly preachy, like, honestly, I thought it didn't make a ton of sense, I think, to have this... Well, no, that's not fair. I won't finish that statement. But anyway, I did not think, like many gamers did, that Last of Us 2 was preachy with its themes. Or specifically with Les... I forget her name. Lev. His name. I didn't think that was preachy at all. But don't put the woke stuff in my game. Freaking simps. I mean, not simps, but incels is what I mean to say on the internet. Like, I'm not one of those. Just don't be overly preachy. Don't beat me over the head with it, and I'll engage with it. I didn't think this was particularly preachy.
I agree.
Even though I disagree with pretty much all the things it's saying, just
I like
let
being
me enjoy it.
and I like interacting. I like changing my mind.
And
like,
I did enjoy the narrative here. I like the story pretty much all the way through. I thought Adam and Eve were pretty weird. They were a little too over the top anime for me.
I told Tyler earlier, put them in a black coat and they'd make a nobody easy in Kingdom Hearts. Like, and replace life, the word life or existence with hearts. Oh, dude, you would have it. It'd be done. What is hearts? You cannot waste your time. Do you think that you have hearts? I desire hearts. If only I could be a real... He's Xemnas. He just wants a heart so he can be a real boy again.
Anyway, I enjoyed a lot of this game, but the combat... What am I missing here? It does not seem particularly engaging. Not for 35 hours. Not even for 15. It just does not seem very good.
Oh, dude, that connection just hit home so hard. He just wants to be a real boy, just like Xemnas. Wow, he even kind of looks like him, the white hair.
So,
wow.
Come join us on Discord.
Dude, that needs to be the thumbnail. It's Xemnas, but with Adam's face photoshopped over it.
Goodness gracious.
That'd be great. Hey, that's NieR.
That is
done talking
NieR
about it for a long
Automata. I am interested in NieR and NieR Replicant. I don't think I'll play them particularly soon. But NieR specifically, I think is a pretty different game.
Yeah.
Replicant seems pretty similar. So if you jump into NieR, let me know. I might try to make time for it as well. But that's NieR. Folks, chug that, bro. Chug that. We got another beer. Not this one here. One more from the beloved Jester King. This one's a staple for them, Mr. Mingo. This is a farmhouse ale brewed with hibiscus. I'm pretty sure I've had this one a couple times. I like it quite a bit. Good. Not busting out like that other one. Let's see here. Zack, for you, sir. Nice pink beer.
Thank you. And we'll be hopping into what have you been playing? The what have you been playing segment. We'll be brief, but we got some good stuff to talk about.
Good stuff,
and
indeed.
then we'll hop into our feature for.
I've got two things to talk about, so I'll talk about one of them. You jump in, and then I'll finish off with what has really just been a treat.
Clinkety clink. You go ahead. Oh yeah, you've got some fun stuff.
I do indeed. So I discovered this game. Here we go. Sushi Strikers, The Way of Shishido. I discovered this when searching for some games that I'm going to be probably talking about next episode. So what this is a game that came out in 2018 or 19 from Nintendo on the freaking 3DS. It was in development a while before. I don't know if it was delayed. I don't know why they released it on 3DS in 2019. It's a little silly, but it's where it belongs. You can get it on Switch. If you have both systems, don't. You can still get this for $10 right now on Amazon. I so highly recommend it. The level of production for such a simple game is wild. You might be able to see a little bit here on the cover, or certainly if you look at a picture online. There are sushi conveyor belts. This game is about eating sushi. And there are 3 sushi conveyor belts for you, 3 for your enemy, and a adjoining one, all of which are going in opposite, interchanging directions. So with the stylus, you're lining up plates of sushi, eating them really quick, trying to line up big stacks of plates, like 8 or 20. Just this huge range you're trying to line up. You eat the sushi, which all the different kinds of sushi gives you crazy power-ups, and then you throw the stacks of plates at your opponent's face. Your opponents are communist China, which have invaded a fictional communist China, which has invaded this fictional Japan and put every sushi lover into some sort of serfdom and stolen sushi from them. And now there is this resistance rising up who have these new spirits awakened in them, and they eat sushi to awaken these spirits. This is also a monster catcher. There are 100 of these spirits. You can go into battle with 3 of them, each of which have a different ability, which I have 8 right now. I'm like 50 levels in. This game's huge, by the way. There's a big island, or a couple islands. I'm in the second, right at this end of the second area, and it's just a little bit of this big map. Like, again, the production of this is wild. So there's like 100 of these spirits. Some of them evolve also when you level them up enough. They each have a different ability. Some of them are like, your enemy can't throw stacks of less than 8 at you, things like that. So you can't just do like really quick damage. They might put up a wall, or they might, add 3 to your stacks. Cool abilities. But each of the so there's 3 things each spirit gives you. An ability. It increases your health by, depending on its level, it increases your player health. And then it's different sushi output. Like every spirit has a different sushi output. So there's like 15 colors of plates and like 60 different types of sushi on these different plates, which are trying to line up different colors, but also, if you can, get the same kind of sushi. You get bonuses for eating sushi. So you've got a bunch of these things to manage. Not only is their sushi output different, once you have been doing well enough, this happens a few times through each fight, you enter into Sushi Jubilee, which then puts out the higher level stuff. So really, you've got like 20 or so, let's say 30 different plates of sushi that each spirit puts out, the second half of which are all super high level and only appear during Sushi Jubilee. All right. It's stupid fun. Each match is like 45 seconds to 2 minutes, maybe. It's just crazy fun. That's all. I was so surprised. I saw it for $10. I was like, a Nintendo produced 3DS game for $10? Sure. All right. It's not quite what I was looking for what I'm going to talk about hopefully next episode. What I found though was sort of a monster catcher, and just this really fun little arcade puzzle battle game. Cannot recommend this enough, guys. Sushi Strikers. You can get it on Switch, but if you have a 3DS, I think that is the definitive way to play. Definitely check it out. Zach, what you got, man?
Yeah. Wow. Sushi. How far would you go for sushi? It asks me on the back.
I would invade another country.
Apparently.
And take it from them. Dude, there are orphans. That, like, once you get a few levels in, there's like little orphans that communist China has captured for whatever reason. Probably slave labor. And you give them sushi to raise their spirits and help them break free of their captivity.
Sushi's pretty great.
Yeah.
I kind of want sushi right now.
It's great. Sushi Strikers.
So I've been playing Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush, that shadow drop from our boys at Arcane.
I figured out why it was shadow dropped. So folks at Bethesda were playing it, like it was circulating internally, and it generated so much internal hype that everybody's like, just drop this game. Drop it right now. Like, make it happen. They're like, oh, okay. So Tango Gameworks is like, yeah, let's do it.
Tango, not Arcane.
Yeah, so Tango are Ghostwire Tokyo, Evil Within 1 and 2. Our boy Shinji Mikami was an executive producer on Hi-Fi Rush. It's wild. So first of all, this style system is more like the Devil May Cry style system than any game I've played.
Cool.
And I've not played Bayonetta, but it is encouraging you to play the game in rhythm and with variety and looking good. It is easier to implement combos in this game, obviously, because you have to stay on the rhythm. It'd be pretty difficult to do what you're doing in Devil May Cry on rhythm with a song. But yeah, it's a rhythm game, so you're in beat to the song, but it is also primarily an action game. You need to be able to juggle enemies and be able to, pull out the right combo at the right time, dodge, block. There's a parry system. there are chips like that you can apply to yourself to increase, to buff, do 20% damage back to the enemy with a parry. You can upgrade that chip so it takes 2 slots and now does 40% damage back to the enemy. Reduce the cooldown of your allies that you call into battle to help you out, like little quick Marvel vs. Capcom style summons, that kind of come in. My favorite one shoots the enemy, so if you are about to wrap up your air combo, you'll fall back down. She keeps in the air, you jump back up and keep the combo going.
Nice.
Lots of great little touches. A decent amount of depth. I was surprised. It has a Bloody Palace mode. Like there's the combat system, even though the combos are really simple and can't reach kind of the heights of something like maybe Devil May Cry, the fact that it has to be on rhythm and the kind of juggles and stuff you can perform, they get pretty wild. You can watch some pretty cool combo videos on this game. It has some licensed music, so there's a streamer mode you can turn on, which is a great touch. But 9 Inch Nails songs, and my favorite one, a modern kind of techno revamp of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony as you fight one of the bosses. It's so much fun. I told Nick about this game because he's so much about, just give me a game that's fun. Take away the fluff. Just stop doing this. Make me a fun game. That's what this is. You can tell these guys who made these dreary horror games were just like, I just want to make something fun. I just want to make something fun. And they did. They made a game that is an absolute joy to play. The characters are vibrant. The settings all move to the beat of the song that's playing. The machines and all this stuff. Crazy enemy variety. So many different enemies. There are some that I could nitpick. There are these shielded enemies that only one of your summoned guys can do, the guy with the longest cooldown. And they're so aggressive until their shield drops that really it's hard to deal with the other enemies until they've been dealt with. So you're kind of just running away until the cooldown's done. Some of the harder bosses, it's a lot of memorization of their patterns. You'll die a few times just to memorize what they're doing. It's a little less intuitive than the normal enemies are. It definitely shines more when you're kind of surrounded because enemies attack on the beat as well. So if you're paying attention, you can dodge to the beat, parry to the beat, and stay pretty safe. So there's one mechanic, a flame mechanic that you can't parry, so you have to watch out.
Flame mechanic?
Yeah, enemies that have fire that you can put out the fire, but if they hit you with a fire attack, it will go through a parry. So, there's a lot going on here.
More in your action repertoire. Awesome.
Yeah. So I was surprised that it fit that bill. But so many great touches. So you're about to fight this boss. He's the head of R&D. So obviously the finance guy hates him. So you're trying to take out all the C-suite execs of this company, basically. And it's, a rogues gallery. They're all wild character designs. It's really fun. This guy Zonzo, Dr. Zonzo, he's the head of R&D. And so he keeps, making these big expensive purchases, and the finance guy keeps coming over the intercom. Listen, if you keep doing this, I'm going to pull your budget. You are such a pain in the butt, And he's like, you don't understand. It is more than science. It is art. And, trying to create all these things. And so about halfway through the level, you're like, we can't get to him. We can't beat this guy. Let's just make him waste his budget. And so the main character keeps taunting him. He's like, this all you got? He's like, really? What a weak looking volcano. He's in this VR place that can kill him. That's one volcano? That's lame. So you literally make him run out of budget, and that's his boss fight. He dies because you literally make him run out of money. It's incredible. So he's about to equip his mech, and everything shuts down because he's out of money. It's really good little touches like that.
It sounds great.
Yeah. It's clean. It doesn't overreach. Has plenty of depth. Great consistency of theme and design. It's not afraid to be silly. When the jokes don't land, you totally forgive it because it's so wacky all the time that you just kind of roll your eyes and chuckle and move on. For example, one of my favorite parts is he gets knocked out, and in between missions, you always go back to your little hideout. Well, he gets knocked out and captured by the enemy. And so he's knocked out, and he goes back to the hideout. You're like, he's back at the hideout, and everybody's going, oh, you're so great. Well, you are so good at what you do. Well, you inspire me. And you start to realize he's just knocked out, and he's dreaming that everybody appreciates him. Signposting. Video game developers, pay attention to this game. You are like, you'll see a collectible as you sling down this zip line and land somewhere near it. It's a little bit obscure to find, but you know it's there. You know there's a way to get it. You'll walk up to get a collectible and you'll see a fence, and through the fence you can see one of the higher value collectibles. How do I get around that? The signposting is there for basically every major collectible. You can figure out how to find these things. It's so good. Yeah, that's all I got to say about Hi-Fi Rush. I can highly recommend it to literally
Hi-Fi
everyone.
Rush. I might play it. I do have a pretty extensive backlog I wanted to get through this year, but we have a week now. But between now and the next game, being Harry Potter, right around a week. So I'm gonna fill it with something. Maybe Hi-Fi Rush. It sounds very good, but I think I want to get to my backlog. However, everything you have said there, aside from the parts of it being an action game, just the silly humor, the vibrancy of it, just how outlandish it is, and even when jokes land, you forgive it because you're just in the moment. It's silly fun. All of these things you've said, so true, specifically for fans of Dragon Ball Z. We have Dragon Ball Fusions I have been playing. I said I wanted to explore monster catchers this year. This is a bizarre series to make into a monster catcher, but oh my god, does it work. Not only is it just silly fun all the way through, just so many dumb shenanigans that the characters are getting into. The idea here is all of the big set pieces and the locales from the whole history of Dragon Ball Z, even up to Dragon Ball Super. So Z, Dragon Ball, GT, Super, they're all just piled in here. Maybe not GT, actually. That's got a weird history. But they've all just been sucked into this like black hole situation and spat back out in just weird amalgamations of land masses that are all spiraling up this endlessly tall tower. So each level, you'll scream into the void like Majin Buu did when he was in the hyperbolic time chamber to rip open reality. You just scream at reality and it opens into a new one, and you go to the next level. It's great. So it's a monster catcher. Last episode, when I talked about Pokemon clones, I talked about some pillars that make for an ideal Pokemon clone. However, after playing this, I think that's going to be true for just the monster catcher genre in general. And I think you can attest to that, having played and really enjoyed Ni no Kuni. So I'm going to refer to the list now, that being, these are the pillars that I think make for a great monster catcher. You need compelling monster designs. Not only do you have every character from Dragon Ball Z here, there's seemingly randomly generated grotesque creatures here that are fun. You need a wide variety. After you unlock the fullness of the fusion system, there are over 1,000 monsters. Dragon Ball Z characters, but I'll say monsters. So there are several hundred, and then each of them I'll get into the system in a minute, but after all is said and done, around a little over 1,000. So it's got the wide variety. You need interesting combat. There's nothing that has a combat system like this. It's very well implemented, and it has an implementation of the active time. What's it called? From Final Fantasy IV, the active time bar or something?
ATB.
Yeah. The ATB, where all of the combatants, all 10 of them, are on the same bar, and based on your speed stat, go from the end to the start, which is where the next turn happens, and you can knock people back. Based on your knockback of the move, you can knock them back on the bar, or if you knock them out of the arena, you send them back to the start. So it's a great implementation of that. So you got 3 of these 6 pillars, clear progression. When we talked on the phone, I mentioned something that was not very clear. I just wasn't paying attention. Everything here, very straightforward. What I didn't get was when I level up, some new moves will be available. And they're moves based on the entirety of my roster, not just my team of 5. But I'm like, why am I seeing Kamehameha again? I already have it equipped to everyone that I want it. Why am I seeing this? Well, each move has different ranks from C, B, A, S, and G. Okay, cool. Whatever G is. But they also, based on those ranks...
Goku.
Yeah. Probably. Who knows? It's from Dragon Ball Super. He enters into like Super Saiyan JG5 Blue. I don't freaking know, dude. I've not watched all of Super. Anyhow...
Soon they're going to run out of letters and it's like, Super Saiyan Pants. Like, is that a big noun?
Well, all of the names are already vegetables. So they'll just start to, like, different cuts of meat. Super Saiyan Veal. Super Saiyan Rump.
I want to see Super Saiyan Rump all day.
Okay, so each move also increases your stats as it goes up. So I might receive another level C Kamehameha, but its spread of stat increases is different. So I might want that one instead, based on my build. Cool. So we've got 4. It should be inviting. Like having, a Dark Souls monster catcher probably would not catch on very well because it's gross. This game is cute, it's funny, and it's for fans. It doesn't have to be for fans, but for those that are fans of Dragon Ball Z, it's silly, dumb stuff over and over. Interesting. Huh. That's an interesting...
Maybe it's not appealing, but consistent, maybe?
No, it's not just the consistency.
Some sort of engaging thing about them. Like in Persona, they're
characters.
all based
it's the characters that are inviting.
Well, in Persona, that's fair. That's fair.
I think it's the RPG happening around because some of the monsters are very grotesque. But yeah, I really think it's
Beelzebub.
Yeah. So
I want a new game plus that game so I can get the high level demons really badly.
They're awesome.
They're so cool.
And finally, you got to be new and interesting. You can't just be doing Pokemon Blue over and over and over and expect people to enjoy it. All of these it has going on, so far around 25 hours into it, still a very engaging battle system. Now almost all of the battles start the same way. So if my speed heavy guy is going first, I'm usually setting up the same first attack. However, every time an enemy goes, you're rearranging the battlefield, which is all based on difference in physics. Like you punch a dude, you're either going to punch him towards the edge of the ring, you're going to punch him into one of his enemies, which now both of them might be flying in a direction, or you might punch him into one of your allies and they'll punch him in a direction. So it's this spatial physics arena. So once an enemy goes, like one enemy takes their first move, it's different now, almost every time. So that hasn't gotten old, still 25 hours into it. I was in the third area. Third area, I spent so much time there. I had to force myself to stop just engaging with the systems and progress the story because I was so over-leveled at that point. Because I was just having fun the whole time. So I forced myself to stop and make progression. And then in like a span of maybe 2 hours, I got through the next 2 areas. So I went from 3 and now I'm just starting 6. Because I was just over-leveled. Not because I was grinding per se. Just having fun engaging with all the systems. Because once you unlock the full fusion and learning how to catch new monsters, it's great. It's just I'm loving it. I might need to put it down for just a little bit because my backlog is
telling him not to.
We'll see. My backlog is also slightly scheduled around the podcast, which the whole point of it was to not have to do that anymore, to just have some games for myself, but we'll see. Well, I'm loving it, so I probably won't yet, but Dragon Ball Fusion. If you have a 3DS, there's still ways before the store shuts down that you can, which is next month, later next month. Nice. Still ways you can put money on your system. If you link your Switch account, you can add money to your Switch, which will then show up on your 3DS account. That's the only way to do that. Or the physical copy, unfortunately, is up there depending on condition, ranging from 60 to 80. So unfortunately, it's gotten up there a bit. Or if you have other ways of playing the 3DS, engage with it that way. Sure, you got to play this game. If you like Monster Catchers, if you like Dragon Ball Z, and just interesting, fun 3DS games, this is one of the best games I've played in a little while. I freaking love it, dude. All right. We are going to move into a special topic Zach has for us this evening. What you got, good sir?
Yeah, so this is our feature for this episode, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. I've been writing it's becoming a very beefy essay about action games. And
can't wait to read it.
Me re-experiencing them, and I go through a lot of the history of their development, what makes a 3D action game, all these things. Why was Devil May Cry so important? Devil May Cry so important? All this stuff. What I have noticed in modern trends is an incredible watering down of action game mechanics. Obviously, we have action adventure games, action RPGs, way more common than just a core action game these days. And that's the way it's always been, pretty much. That being said, even in those action adventure games of yesteryear, a lot of them are going to have more complex action systems. God of War is pretty tough. If you ever go back and play God of War or God of War 2 on some of the higher difficulties, it's pretty tough. You have to, really manage your positioning. Sure, the combos themselves aren't as demanding as something like Devil May Cry, but got to manage your position. You got to think about how much magic you have left, how to use it, when to use it. You have to know what encounter's coming next. You have to really plan ahead for the actual action portion of it. RPG mechanics, however, have really started to take over in these games. Even look at God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. So many numbers and different quote-unquote builds, regardless of how much they actually influence the game. It's all there.
That was a huge part of our conversation for both of those games.
Both of those games. The weakest part of both by far. And ended up watering down the combat to some extent. Like, you can still build a complex combat system, but here's the problem. When you add RPG mechanics, you are now adding a new way to test the player. And so if you make it so that you have to be very good at the action combat, how do you then measure the RPG portion of it? So let's say I have to be really good at the action combat, but I also have to be at this level to fight this boss is the best level, and you should be using this status effect or a blade that has this property or something. Something about the build and build variety and stuff like that. They have to be balanced in a way that if one doesn't matter and the other is overemphasized, you're going to ask, why is the other one even there a lot of the time? And it's vice versa. And people are going to prefer developing RPGs because it adds variety inherently. And they're honestly a little easier to develop because they're simply balancing numbers rather than balancing positioning, speed, frame data, fighting game stuff. It's a little bit easier to develop for, but you have to weight them. If one feels meaningless, why am I playing it at all? Why is this part of the game at all? Right? And so it will inherently pull down the requirement of the action combat, how much it can demand of you, because it needs to increase how much the RPG elements actually matter to that combat. There are examples of it not being watered down a whole lot. Now, the skill required might be watered down a little bit, but that's fine because something like Stranger of Paradise still has a pretty dense combat system that's fun to engage with despite an incredibly heavy emphasis on RPG mechanics. Way more than most even, action adventure titles today. The combat system in Stranger of Paradise is very good. I've only played the first few hours, but it's RPG heavy, but it's still good. But it is watered down compared to their previous games. So here's the trend that I kind of have in my mind. Devil May Cry 1 was made. It had some adventure game components from its Resident Evil lineage. You have to find an item, but you bring it. You only have one item key item at one time. You bring it to one place, and the mission's done. It's not very robust. The adventure component is very small. It's primarily the action. That's a hard game. It's a very hard game, even on the base difficulty. And so you got God of War. Comes around, really softens that. It makes it more inviting, lowers the skill ceiling, lowers the skill bar as well for entry, and really emphasizes the interconnected levels and puzzles and the space, like really brings the adventure up a notch and really sets the template for modern action adventure games. In God of War, we get QuickTime events because we want to still look flashy. We want to still look like the kind of stuff people can pull off in Devil May Cry. Really skilled people in Devil May Cry can pull off. So we'll give them QuickTime events. Get a really cool cinematic kill. The player did it because they were involved by pushing buttons. Right?
Sure.
Take that as you will. But that's the idea behind it, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea behind it. And so, okay, now we get Dark Souls. Dark Souls comes along 6 years later. And you can even say Demon Souls. But Dark Souls was the real doorbuster for development inspiration. Dark Souls comes along. It has action combat, dodging, hitting, placement, all these things, with a huge emphasis on RPG mechanics. Huge emphasis. So you're getting these you've taken the cinematic side out of it pretty much entirely. You put a scale up real large and you just start using these RPG mechanics. Are you the right level? Are you the right build? Are you using your build to the best of your ability? And then you have to be good at dodging and fighting in the game. But it's a simple, very, very simple system. You have a simple combo, maybe two, you dodge, you have some items that you can use. You have to implement it in an action way, but it's primarily the RPG. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to look at Team Ninja making Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2. Huge deal, entirely action combat focused pioneers of games. Moving to Ninja Gaiden 3, where they implement QuickTime events, big scale boss design. And then what's their next game that's not a Dead or Alive title? That's not true. It's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. But the next game of that Ninja Gaiden ilk, Nioh. Heavily RPG focused, simpler combat mechanics, primarily focusing on the simple dodging, simple combos, and the RPG mechanics. Your level.
Oh, I do think that was the next game, actually. I think Nioh came out first. Before.
You might be right. I don't remember.
That came out a couple years into the Switch.
It was 2017 for Nioh. I don't remember when Ultimate Alliance was, so it must have been. If it was a couple of years. Okay, there you go. And then Nioh 2, and then Stranger of Paradise. Heavy RPG focus. Stranger of Paradise has more fun action combat than Nioh, probably. I need to play Nioh 2. But you see what I'm saying, though? Like, there's this watering down, and I mean, compare the action component of Nioh to Ninja Gaiden, and there is the depth. It becomes way shallower because of the weighting of the RPG mechanics. And this is becoming more and more common. Like I said, God of War 2018. If you look at Assassin's Creed, and not like I'm saying that's an action title or that its action combat was good, but even it RPGified. You know what I mean? Like, RPGs have to be weighted up to make the RPG mechanics count, which end up watering down the other side of it. This is a pretty common trend. So I have some interesting things here. So, who has carried the torch, and is there any hope? So we talked about Team Ninja. Action RPGs ever since Nioh. I don't see them ever changing. Platinum Games. Bayonetta did not inspire really any people to make games like Bayonetta. Like, can you think of... I can't think of any.
It was a little shot in the arm for interest in the genre, but you're specifically talking about on the side of development.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really took that up. And Platinum is really an island, And even they are starting to show signs of conforming. Not to RPGs specifically, but
more accessible
they're
things.
hitting hard on Bayonetta right now and really doubling down on their experimental projects aren't doing much because they bombed with Babylon's Fall. And
did you play that?
No. No way.
Try it out, man. See what happens.
Okay. I have here Who the Hell Knows for Grasshopper Manufacturer, because who the hell knows?
They're not even. Oh, actually, they have made a couple, but that's they just make so many different things.
They make a lot of action games though, especially compared to other studios. Killer is Dead, Lollipop Chainsaw, the 3 Travis games, or sorry, well not the 3, but 3 main Travis games, and there's one other one.
Mad World.
Mad World. No, that's Platinum.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Shadows of the Damned.
Yeah, that's a shooter. Definitely not.
It's a shooter with heavy involvement from, I think he directed it as like Itsuno. Not Itsuno. Suda and I forget what role he had, but Shinji Mikami, the guy who made Resident Evil.
Oh, you can see that immediately.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Heard.
In fact, I was gonna say, yeah, it's a little bit like a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, it's him. Devil May Cry. How can anyone take inspiration from Devil May Cry 5? It's the result of an iterative process spanning 20 years. What are you supposed to take from that? I have an interesting thing, though. Itsuno, though. Hideaki Itsuno? I don't know. Whatever. Itsuno, the guy who made Devil May Cry 2 through 5. I think of his other game, which is an RPG. He made Dragon's Dogma.
Which we want to play. It's high on both of our lists, right?
Yeah. And
is it getting up there? Because if we want to slot it in sometime this year, that's
I'd love to play it whenever. But it's very interesting that he made that game, and it would probably be pretty pertinent to this conversation. How he implements something like that. FromSoft, yeah, right. Sekiro is a one-off. They're never going back to what Sekiro did.
Yeah, especially after
Elden Ring.
After Elden Ring, yeah.
Compare this to the Xbox and PS2 and the PS360 era. Lots more titles from folks like FromSoft, Ninja Blade, Atogi, Konami, Nanobreaker, Capcom, God Hand, Chaos Legion, and even Sega, Blood Will Tell. Just way more core action titles. Like, sure, they're not on the level of something like Devil May Cry, but they are action games.
Well, as you said, 20 years of iteration.
Yeah.
Few things can be on that
exactly. Level. But they're just action games. Heavenly Sword. I mean, what happened to that? Where did that go? It's drowning under the influence of Dark Souls, I would argue. Drowning under the influence that Dark Souls brought to the genre. You can look how people engage with a dodge with some iframes, a shield, a sword with one combo, and high difficulty. And then a lot of RPG stuff. Look how people engage with this. They engage with it well. We don't need to worry about making these complex, or not even complex, just deep combat systems where the action is the core of the title and can carry it for 28 hours. 8 hours can carry it for 8 hours.
And then make you compelled to do it for 8 hours.
El Shaddai!
3 more times.
El Shaddai is a game that exists.
Yeah.
Like,
it does exist.
I just want less RPG in my games, in my action games. It's just a trend I've been noticing. It's one that I'm kind of lamenting right now, and I'm looking for some hope. So obviously we will be getting Devil May Cry 6 or some spin-off or something. 5 was a huge hit. We'll be getting that. So there's hope there. Platinum will likely still make Bayonetta games. I don't know if they're ever going to make another original IP based on how their sales have probably been going lately. But
really, you don't think so?
Dude, Babylon's Fall hit them hard.
Fair enough.
I was watching a video talking about like what that did to that company.
Yeah, and that was after the cancellation of what did they do between?
Oh, dude. And that was a
what was it called?
Hideki Kamiya game too. It was gonna be a Kamiya game. The dragon one, Scalebound.
Scalebound, yeah. So what was between Scalebound and Babylon's Fall?
It was. I know this. I don't remember. Never mind. Forget it. I'm gonna look it up. But
The Legend of Korra on the 3DS.
Yes, The Legend of Korra on the 3DS. No.
Or PC maybe.
I don't remember.
I actually hear that's not a bad game. Like up there with the Transformers game.
Wait,
but
which one?
It's Platinum did a Legend of Core game.
Oh yeah. I watched a video on that. Apparently, it's the weakest of their licensed titles, from what I understand.
What were those?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers Devastation,
that's right.
and Korra.
The weakest of them. That's
Transformers
sad.
is pretty universally agreed to be the
Yeah.
strongest of them.
I forgot about the Ninja Turtles.
I also forgot that they developed Star Fox Zero.
Oof.
Yeah.
They developed it, or they were pulled in to help.
They
because Nintendo doesn't know what
co-developed with Nintendo EPD, so they co-developed.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Astral Chain.
Ah, yes.
Astral Chain, which I want to play.
Which
very
was
badly.
Not a flop, but like no one has ever talked about.
Which is a shame. Apparently, like, I bet you it has some RPG mechanics. I bet you that'd be a great example for how NieR should have been. I bet you Astral Chain would be a great example for how NieR should have been from a combat perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, I want to play that as well. I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet.
Origins comes out. Bayonetta Origins coming out soon, right?
That's a very different game, sir.
Well, yeah. But I just mean, like, that's their next game. So
I don't know what is going on there.
Yeah, that looks. I mean, I'll play it once it goes down in price a little bit. It won't. No, I'm kidding. But Project GG is their TBA game, so we'll see.
GG.
Oh, they did World of Demons.
God Grip.
And
what if they revive? Is it Square Enix or Capcom?
Capcom.
God Grip.
That was directed by. I think it was directed by Shinji Mikami, the guy who made Resident Evil. I think it was directed.
Have you played any of that game?
God Hand? I played the first level. It's fantastic.
Great. I think I played the first 3.
It's fantastic. Their first game was Mad World.
That was Platinum's first
game.
Wow.
I have it on the shelf. I'll play it one day.
Yep.
I will play it one day.
Pretty fun.
So yeah, that's my take. This is more of a discussion starter. I'd like people to kind of, take a look. What's going on here? Is there any hope of the core action title ever coming back as a thing that just devs do? I
don't think so.
Like I think it's going to depend on the Japanese market. I mean, listen to all those guys I named. All Japanese studios.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the reason Jaffe, what's his name? David Jaffe? David Jaffe made God of War. It's not the reason, but one of the big reasons he and Corey cites this as well is because one of the big action game developer guys, they said they wouldn't name him, said in a public interview, well, the West just can't make good action games. That's what we're here for, to make good action games. And he's like, oh, here we go, boy. Let's make a good one. And he made one of the most influential games of all time, despite being a pretty rude guy, apparently. I've heard. I don't know.
So he's got a podcast. I've listened to pieces of a couple episodes. He doesn't seem to be now that he's a little older, but I remember like hearing him on G4 interviews or something, and him being a pretty crass individual.
Okay.
I don't think that's the case.
Age softens
much anymore.
I really liked watching him play God of War 2018 because he picked it up and he was playing it. It was a while after release, I think, and he has his issues with it. He's not a big fan, but he got to the part where you get the Chaos Blades, and he was swinging them around, and he was like, he got a little bit like he's like, this is good. Like he just kind of had a moment. It was really cool. It was a good moment. I was reading an interview with him.
He doesn't like it very much?
Yeah, it's just not. He said it's not his kind of game, really. He tends to be more.
He doesn't like daddy stories, like
like
Jacob Geller.
Oh, dude, come on! Everybody should like a good dad story. But yeah, that's all I got, man.
Interesting. I don't think there is much hope.
I agree.
You're right. It will solely depend on Japanese developers, but as you've stated, even they are moving in a very particular direction. I think it's going to remain with just Platinum and the occasional Capcom release.
I think.
I mean, who knows? It could be.
And again, with Grasshopper, who the hell knows?
Yeah, they have such a wide swath. Sure, they have a handful under their belt, but they have so many other games as well.
Yeah, it's
They
wild.
just do anything basically. I mean, it could be as big of a gap between 5 and 6 as it was between DMC 4 and 5. Who knows? Because also
honestly,
Resident Evil, they are really going hard with Resident Evil.
and I have no
me.
issues with that. Resident Evil's been great, dude.
Yes.
7 on have been just the revival of a lifetime. I cannot wait for 4. Oh, dude.
Yes, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good October. We're going to play RE4 remake, not Dark Souls, but Dead Space remake, and
the Silent Hill 2 remake.
2.
Dude.
So we played, was it last year you played Silent Hill 2? Or the previous?
Yeah, we played Silent Hill 2 the year before.
The year before, okay. Well, I couldn't play that. Something came up. I played a very little bit of it. So I'm excited to finally be able to dive in. 3 of arguably the most influential horror games of all time.
Yep.
All getting honest to goodness remakes this year. It's fantastic.
And they're all going to be compared to each other for the rest of the time because they're coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just going to be
It's a good year. It's a really good year.
Yahtzee said, he's talking about, you know how like when we talk about Doom, because it's called the same name as the first Doom game, we have to put in parentheses 2016. He's like, what we're going to do is have the year 2022 and in parentheses put Elden Ring. Just because that's really it. That's the deal.
I suppose so. Folks, that's it for today. That's it for the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. Second episode here in 2023. So excited for next week. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Next episode, that is. So excited for next episode. Harry Potter. I've been waiting since I was like 10 years old for this game.
Yeah, man, I've been rewatching.
Oh,
the Potter
boy.
movies.
I think it's the first time Katie's going to sit down and watch a game, which means I'll actually have a lot of time to play other things if I'm going to be waiting for her to get home. And that's our sort of
My wife is
TV
just
time.
playing it.
Yeah.
I finally fully
Definitely.
converted her over the past 2 or 3 years. She's been converting.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
So anyway, if you liked what you heard here, if you want to come and debate NieR with us, a civil debate, mind you, come join us on Discord. You can find the link in the description. We'd love to hear more about your opinions, both on the philosophy questions that are
I love talking
posed
philosophy.
in the game, but also. We
combat.
are in the minority. We understand that fully. We're in the minority. So many people loved NieR. Come tell us what you saw, what we're not seeing, because we aren't. We are not seeing it, and we'd really like to talk about that. So come join us there. And folks, please don't forget to share what you love with who you love.